Oh, nicely. I just figured out I can see everybody. Will, should we start?
Still have a couple of people joining if you want to give it a minute, but
Okay.
you're probably right about on time, so
Okay.
it's up to you.
Okay. Well, why don't we start? Okay. I'm Barbara Chalky, the chair of the Budget Committee. I want to welcome everybody. And I now can see people because I didn't have my computer working prior to now, but now I can see everybody. I just want to, what we're doing tonight is voting on the 2022 expense budget, our priorities, and the priorities of the capital budget. I just want to start off with a little statement. By the way, 2022 is the budget that starts July 1st, 2021, and it goes through June 30th, 2022. And what I want to say is it's really, I think, a very strange time, and Will and I discussed this, to do a budget because we don't know what's going to happen. We certainly don't know what's going to happen, even if we're now in fiscal year 2021. We know it's a unique time. We know there's going to be city, state, and federal cuts most likely. I don't know how it can be avoided. And we don't know yet the community board's own budget, which I know people have been asking for items and making requests. We don't know what's going to happen. And I'm very concerned that there's going to be cuts this year, 2021 cuts, because the year that ends June 30th, even if we get federal funds, and even if there's a new administration, I don't want to get political, but even if there's a new administration, it's going to take time to undo and to make the changes and to make up for the losses that we already have. So we have to, I think, keep that in mind, especially when we do the needs statements, because it's almost, I always say it's almost a joke at times because the way they don't respond to us. And, every year they give us what they're going to look at tonight is the responses to the 2021 budget, which we're in now, which goes through June 30th. And they, when they respond, that they always do, if there's money in the budget, we'll fund it. Well, we're asking you to put money in. But this year, we don't know what's going to happen with that. And I'm going to, at one point, I don't know if I have any support, I want to discuss, even we've done this way back, we've done this before other times, is to recommend to the state legislature that we have a tax increase, a wealth tax. So I'm going to throw that out. I don't know if I have support from anyone, but I think that's the only realistic way. We're not going to have enormous cuts. So I think we should start off with looking at the expense budget for 2021, which is the year we're in now. And can you put that on the screen?
Yeah.
Will? Okay.
Yeah. So everyone should see our screen, if you were able to participate in the last couple of years, you're at least a little bit familiar with the new portal that the Department of City Planning has for our district needs and our budget requests. And I also have set up a spreadsheet here. Most of you are board members, and most of you should have received a copy of this spreadsheet. I've made it a little bit less cumbersome by putting it up here, but then I also meant to. Do you want this up, Barbara, or do you want the roster one?
I think the roster. So what we're doing now, we want to look at what we did in 2021, which is now, and see what we're going. If we're going to do, leave those items in for 2022, which begins in July. Again, I hope people, I think, understand by now that it really doesn't matter if something's in one of our priorities. It really doesn't matter if it's 10 or 11 or 12. If they're in our priorities, especially when you look at the comments that we got back from the agencies, which those of you who have worked with me before know it drives me crazy when they say, if there's money, we'll give it to you. We're asking you to put money in the budget.
Okay, I'll put up the official response right now.
Yeah.
So this is what we always get back from the city, and it includes. I think most of the board members should be familiar seeing this, but it includes the priority that we had, and then the agency's response to it.
Now, number one, I think is more important than ever. When we get back to whatever we get back to, remote learning, or get back to direct learning, I think pre-K and 3K is going to be extra important. I mean, these kids have been home, not understanding, I think, what's going on. And whenever I see kids in the street, I get really concerned. How are these kids dealing with this? So, I mean, I would like to leave I know pre-K and K seats have been good because I think the mayor made that as a priority. So those have been funded. Anybody has any more comments about that?
Judy Schneider has her hand up. Judy?
Judy?
Barbara, I'm finding it hard to read this sheet, so that as we go through each one, could you just quickly state what they are?
Okay, number one was to fund 3K and pre-K seats in Community Ward 8. The agency response was further study by the agency of this request is needed. I mean, I think it's been studied enough.
You have.
Yeah.
Did you have anything else to say, Judy, or?
No.
Okay. Michelle and then Gail have their hands up.
Okay, go. Michelle.
Yeah, thank you. This is the year 2021 that will expire next July.
No, it expires June 30th. Yes.
June 30th. Okay, I want to make sure we haven't gone through all of this. I want to make very sure that our priority is schools. One of the issues, as you know, people are leaving the city like crazy. Every year when I participate in this budget committee meeting, I always want schools to be number one.
What is number one?
No, pre-K is number one.
Well, okay, but
that's not the same thing.
Well, I don't know what you want about schools.
I want more schools. One of the things that we lack dramatically in this district, and if you have ever participated in the school entry program, you would understand what a complete fiasco this is. Children from our district can be sent as long as 2-hour trips to a school that they can be assigned to. We need more schools in the district. And while I think that absolutely exceeds the importance of 3K and pre-K seats. Now, you have stated that it doesn't matter what the order is of what we are asking for. But I see that number 1 is pre-K, number 2 is after-school programs. I'm absolutely in favor of that. But I don't see in the 4 items that are on this page that we're looking at, I don't see schools anywhere.
What do you have to be specific? Do you want more middle schools?
I want more elementary, more middle, and more high schools.
Mhm.
Okay, and I would love, and I would like to see
I
them.
would want to see that as number 1 because it's so unrealistic this year.
This
But-
is
Well,
also the expense budget, everyone.
expense.
We're looking at expense first, and then we'll go back to capital. So
you need to build the schools before you fund them.
Exactly.
So this is expense, not capital.
Okay, so we should put that should be in the capital budget.
More schools, additional schools have to be on the capital first, yeah.
Okay, well, in the expense, where you say 3K and pre-K, you're assuming that there's room in each of the existing schools for an increase in these number of seats, and there isn't.
There was seats made available this year.
But there isn't any room. I mean, there in a place like PS6, you know, kids are meeting in the hallways and
Nobody's meeting in the hallways right now.
we understand that, Barbara. But I'm just saying, going forward, I think that this item is a capital item because I don't think the
We'll
seats
do the capital
exist.
budget after we do this budget, okay?
But I'm talking about this budget now, so I'm thinking this should be.
I don't want to go back and forth between expense and capital.
I understand that. That's why I think it should be removed from the expense budget because the seats don't exist.
I will fight that. These kids need pre-K and 3K. These
I'm
kids-
not disputing that, Barbara. I'm only saying that currently these seats do not exist. And while your statement to me, your explanation was that to create seats, that's in the capital budget. So in response to your explanation to me, I'm suggesting that this go into the capital budget because these seats do not
you take it
currently
out of the
exist. They have to
expense
be created.
Okay, I vote no on that, taking it out of the expense budget. I vote no. Do we want to take a vote?
Sure, but I'm only going by your
I
explanation.
know, but listen, I don't think there's going to be any schools this year. So, you know,
That's not relevant. We are asking for something.
okay. You want to vote on each item? I can stay till I have a meeting at 6 a.m. So I have to be finished by 6 a.m. How do you want to work this? I don't think you know if we have to vote on each item.
I would think you necessarily need to vote on each item. Maybe it's good to just go through the whole list and let everybody have a chance to have a conversation, and then you guys can really
Any
discuss.
other comments on the first one then?
Michelle, I'm going to mute you and lower your hand. Gail has her hand up. Elaine, and then we'll go from the list after that. There's more. Gail.
Barbara, first of all, I think that having the expense budget items as well as the capital budget is fine. I don't think that one has to be excluded in favor of the other. Interestingly, I don't believe that we actually have any 3K seats in the district. And we've been able to secure more fund 3K we don't have. We do have adequate pre-K seats at this point in time because of Ben Kalos. But bottom line is I think that we should have it in the expense budget as well as in the capital budget because you have to have the money to build the new schools, but you also need the expense budget to cover other costs. So I don't see that it's necessary to cut one out in place of the other, Michelle. And then interestingly, I think that the 3 pressing issues that were in our district needs, I think one was affordable housing, the second was parks, and the third was schools. Those were the 3 that we highlighted. So I would also think that we have to kind of take a general look as far as which initiatives overall are most important to the district, and then drill down to the specifics within those areas, or are any of those to be replaced with something else?
Okay, anyone else?
I recommend at this point.
Next, are you done, Gail? I don't want to cut you
I
off.
am. Mhm,
Okay.
mhm.
All right. Next, we have Elaine, and then Betty, and then Barbara Rudder and Tricia.
Okay, I was going to, and Will, you said it, but there's a difference between capital and expense. Capital is for infrastructure or items that have more than a 5-year lifespan. As far as the schools, look, we all know this is a process that we do every year, and there's no response from the city. But I think it's important we can put in, definitely build new schools. We need a high school, a middle school, grammar school, whatever the new titles are.
Mhm.
But the expense component is that you're looking for seats within existing facilities. And they have opened different ones by either renting out or whatever. So I think that's the difference, is that you're looking to find existing seats or new seats in existing buildings. And then what we need is, because that age group gets older, we need local schools. And the pandemic has made it even more important that we look at local schools so that the children are not having to go on buses to go an hour or 2 hours. We all know the story of living on the Upper East Side, and the kid is going to PS6, but they have to pick up kids in Roosevelt Island. So that kid gets on at the crack of dawn, goes to Roosevelt Island, and then goes to PS6. That's unacceptable from a learning perspective and even mental health of a child. So I'd like to see, we have one request for seats. When we look at the capital budget, make sure then we've put in for schools, new schools, and opening spaces in existing facilities.
Are you done, Elaine? I don't want to cut
Yes,
you
I'm
off.
sorry. Okay,
Oh.
next time I'll say I'm done. Right.
Oh yeah, okay, it's okay, thanks. Betty, *6 to unmute. Betty Cooper Wallerstein. There you go.
Hi. It was already said what I was going to say. Thank you.
Okay, Barbara Rudder.
I was just going to add to the list that I think that we need some emphasis on affordable housing, or housing to supportive house, more supportive housing in here too. I would like to see that as part of the, or I know that's, I don't mean the construction, the capital budget, but the expense budget can be programs for it, or.
I think it's in there.
Is it? Okay. Gail listed the top priorities, and I think this
that's a different document. It's in the priorities budget
Thank you.
for this fiscal year. We're
Okay.
looking at this fiscal year now.
Thank you.
Tricia.
Hi, everybody. Apologies for the children's music behind me. That's just Teddy. I think that, just to go off of Gail's point again, I think that there's a little bit of a confusion and about the documents that we're looking at. So it may be helpful if we just, Barbara, I know that we're going over expense, and then I know that we're going over capital, but I think that it would help everybody to know that in our district needs statement for FY21, that we said that the 3 most pressing issues facing our community board is 1, affordable housing, to go to Barbara Rudder's point, parks and schools. And specifically to Michelle's point, we say in the very first sentence that we need pre-K, elementary, middle school, and high schools seats. So if that helps the situation, I know that we're going over these specific budget requests, but that's made very clear at the top of our top of our district needs statement. And then we kind of dive down deeper. So I agree with Gail's suggestion that we identify and first recognize that if we're still okay and comfortable with those three big priorities, and then to dive deeper into it. But that's just, I think, for if it's helpful to others to know that those are the three top priorities that we identified last year. And everything that you just said from Michelle and Barbara Rudder's comments, that was reflected in last year's district needs statement.
That's the last of the hands
Okay.
up for this. So
And the second one, I was asked to read them: provide, expand, or enhance after-school programs for elementary school students, grade K to 5, in the fund out of school, it's called out of school time now, and daycare programs for all children who go to school in Community Board 8 or have parents that work in Community Board 8. The agency response was, presently there are a variety of agency-funded programs. That's by the not-for-profit agencies in the district for this target population. Additional programs are contingent upon available funding and will be distributed through an RFP process. Organizations are encouraged to apply. And then it says the agency agrees with this request, but the funding decision follows a different budget process, an RFP program. I don't know how much money there's going to be available for not-for-profits to run these programs. Any comments?
Gail.
I would just change it a little to say affordable and accessible programs, because when we were looking at childcare, we didn't find that many affordable options. And even as Tricia had said, if you have to pay for a really small child, $35,000 to $50,000 a year, that's just not doable. And it's not even for the elementary school kids. Also, if you have to find programs for them, the agency programs that are currently available are still expensive unless somebody is at the poverty line. But if somebody is above that, then, and in our district, there are a lot of people who have a middle income but can still not afford the daycare options that are available after school programs. So I'd like to modify our request just to talk about affordable.
You mean if we put it in 2022 budget? Yep, okay. The next one was other youth workforce increased funding for youth programs in development requests. Presently, there are a variety of agency-funded programs in the district. This is usually the not-for-profits too, for the target population. Additional programs are contingent upon available funding and will be distributed through an RFP process. Organizations are encouraged to apply. And that's, the agency said the same thing basically. Number 4, I think that we really need that now.
Barbara, Tricia has her hand up for that one.
I guess. Hi, I just want to, I think I would like to propose that we strengthen this a little bit. So this is the year that they cut Summer Youth Employment Program, which this community board stood up for and said that we wanted this program funded. I'm going to send Will an article. They also just, the city just put out an article saying that they were planning on cutting the Learning to Work program, which is another funded program that allows for high school students to have a paid internship. These are very essential programs, and particularly the Summer Youth Employment Program has funded students working in our parks to keep them running and to open up the pools and that sort of thing. So these are two very important programs. If we can specify that youth workforce development requests and specifically say include the Summer Youth Employment Program and the Learning to Work program, I think that this would strengthen and it would strengthen the overall request.
Yeah, Tricia, that's why I'm so concerned, because we don't know what kind of cuts are going to happen.
Yeah, so if we could change the language on that one in particular,
make it stronger, yeah,
to include those two, that would be great. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Trisha, would you send me the language that you want to include? Maybe just,
I'm gonna send it to you, and I just sent you an article, Will, that you could share with everybody on the call. Yes, I'll send it to you now.
that was the only person who had their
Number
hand.
4, and I think this is very needed now because it's getting very bad out there. Other animal and pest control requests. Under that is increased funding for rodent extermination on city streets. I think things are worse and very bad out there now. Any comments?
No.
Okay. Number 5, again, we've discussed this before. Other park maintenance and safety requests. Preserve funding for year-round workers and associate parks and recreation workers at New York City Parks and Recreation. I did get people calling about that. The parks really need, I know John Jay Parks needs more help, assistance. Cultures has a conservancy, so it's in a little better shape, but there's other parks, St. Catherine's, there's a lot of parks, and I think we know we have very little open space in this district, and we really need it maintained. Otherwise, it's not going to last. And that's, I think, very important. And again, it was one of us needs.
Trisha has her hand up.
Yes, so again, just to speak on this one and the next one, I could not agree with you more, Barbara. I think we need to keep these. There's very few weekends that have gone by that I haven't called our parks managers to ask them to address a specific issue, if it's either garbage pickup or if it's maintenance. I just called parks workers like 2 days ago because we had teams who were throwing things into the empty John Jay pool that needed to be taken care of. So absolutely need more staff. And for the next one, because everybody is using our parks so much, even at the East 72nd Street Neighborhood Association meeting that we were at, we're getting complaints about just the high level of trash. And we are hearing that parks could be facing obviously 20% budget cuts to their staff. So we absolutely need this. And even if I know that this is all one list, and I know that it doesn't matter too much, but even if we can bump this up, I would love that because it is very important to us.
And the next one, improve trash removal and cleanliness. That's in the parks and outside of the parks because it's 2 different budget items. But we really need, we can't, and I'm afraid they're going to try to cut that. The streets are the garbage is overflowing in the parks and outside of the parks. And it's 2 different items, and we really need, that needs to be done. I don't know, that was number 6.
No questions.
Okay. Number 7 was provide new traffic or pedestrian signals. Increase funding for, I can't see this. It's dark where I'm looking. Audible accessory crossing signals. I think that we really did what we got some money for that this year. You know, the automatic audible signals. But I think that's still important. We have a high senior population. People can't see right. The streets are darker than they ever were. And I think we need extra help in crossing the streets.
You have some questions on this one or some comments. Elaine, Rebecca, Barbara, and then Betty.
My hand didn't go up in time for the previous one. But Barbara, are you saying that for the improved trash removal, it's not just the Department of Parks that we're reaching out to, but also Department of Sanitation?
Yes, yes.
Because we have decreased pickup in the community. The cans are overflowing. We seem to have people in this community or who come into it who have no respect for putting their garbage in the correct place. So I think we definitely need increased pickup for the cans on the corners of all the streets.
Yes, definitely.
And I have nothing to say on the next item. I'm finished.
Okay.
Rebecca?
I have two things. The first, going off of what Elaine just said, I don't see that the request for outside the parks as
Yeah, I think
part
we
of,
I think
we have to add it.
that has to be added because it
Yeah.
is two different funding sources.
So I would suggest adding it and either putting it like directly below or directly above. And then the second was about the new traffic or pedestrian signals, because I did notice that they asked for a list of specific locations, and I'm sure they're going to say that again next year. I don't know if anyone here has an idea, or if maybe we want to pass this on to Craig and Chuck
I
and
think we
send
should
a letter after.
Transportation, and I think I would suggest, since we needed another number, we needed to put the trash in the park and outside the park, that maybe we should, for now, should take out the pedestrian signals, because I've seen a number added this year. So maybe we need the trash may be more important than that one, will be my recommendation.
Okay.
Okay, anybody else?
Barbara Rudder?
I'm going to ask if you can keep the audible in. I have an eyesight problem, and I'll tell you, it's making it more difficult for me to cross because I don't see necessarily the countdown number, the countdown. And I really think it's an extremely important, maybe we could combine the inside and outside garbage. Isn't it both parks doing it? Why do we need two items for it?
Because one of them is Parks Department and one of them is sanitation.
Then why don't we just combine the sanitation and say, whatever, do we need
Okay,
outside the park and on the street, or?
Sanitation, it's, the corners, the empty trash cans on the streets. We can try doing it that way.
The request can only go to one agency at a time.
Oh, that's it. There's two of them going to sanitation that could be combined both to
We
sanitation.
can try. They're probably going to criticize us, but we'll try to combine it with another sanitation.
Audible really are important. There's more and more blind people here. People actually.
I know. I'm not arguing with you, but I'm just telling you how they respond to us.
Okay.
The next one.
Oh wait, you still have more. You have more people who have comments on this
Okay,
one.
sorry.
Barbara, sorry. Betty Cooper Wallerstein. Star 6.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Barbara, I have noticed in the past weeks that they have taken away at the crosswalks the timing. In other words, you don't get the numbers as to how many, how long it's going to take before the light changes.
Where did
And
that
that's very,
I haven't seen it.
so that's very serious at
If they're
first.
taking it away, call it into the board office where it's taken away. I haven't seen that. So call. I
Well,
think
it's okay. All right.
call the board office with that. That shouldn't happen.
I thought the thing we're talking about now had to do with crosswalk and with.
No, it has to do with taking anything away. We're talking about the garbage.
No. What we had was a way to see when the light was changing. You knew how much time you
I
had.
haven't seen where they're taking it away. So if they're taking it away,
Okay. Well.
please
Okay.
call it into the board office.
All right.
After that, Elaine Walsh, then Craig, then Felice, then Rebecca Dangor.
Yeah, I just want to support that we need to put the sanitation issue as far as garbage pickups higher up. It's not on there. I'd like it right under the removal of the trash for the parks. It is overflowing. It's a health issue. We also have some people in the neighborhood who are overturning full garbage cans and nobody is picking them up. This is an essential public health issue, and we need to get sanitation to come back and do pickups. The mayor reallocated funds to certain other communities and didn't think our neighborhood was commercial enough or COVID enough to have garbage pickup. So it's an essential public health issue, and you can't expect volunteers to be emptying out garbage cans. It's wonderful that the volunteers go out and pick up litter from the tree pits, etc. which is another issue I'd like to talk about at another time. But we need to move sanitation up. And I make a motion to include right after the removal and cleanliness for the Department of Parks and Recreation, that we put in the sanitation and request for increased pickups 7 days a week of all garbage cans in the major areas. I'm finished.
Thanks. Next, Craig Later.
Good evening, everyone. I just wanted to acknowledge that back in February, the Transportation Committee members did solicit input from the members of our committee regarding locations for audible pedestrian signals. So we should have an active and recent list, but if anyone has any other intersections that they believe would be necessary, we're definitely happy to include that as well.
Thank you.
Felice?
I would agree with the emphasis on trash pickup. I don't think we'll ever get a daily trash pickup, although I would be thrilled with that. But if we could get perhaps more or bigger trash cans in the neighborhood, that would be helpful.
We tried that one year. They said they didn't have them.
Although it certainly does make a big difference when it's harder for trash to flow out of those trash cans. And I know it's a challenge when they're so overflowing that people don't even have enough room to throw their dog waste bags in the trash can. But the other item that's on here that I think maybe requires a little bit more emphasis. So item number 9 is on increased funding for tree pruners and tree climbers. But I think with a lot of the extreme wind conditions that we've had, and I think one of the things the mayor said he was reducing was funding for tree pruners. That's something we really need to emphasize. I was out walking just last week and a branch fell off a tree and on a car on the block I was walking on. I think the care of the trees is really critical for just public safety. And I'd be very concerned about efforts to cut back tree pruners. And so while it is on here, I would just maybe make that a little stronger or, emphasize it as a priority.
Well, it is a priority. It's pretty high up.
Yeah.
Rebecca Dengor.
Hi. No, I don't want to labor on this, but I do not think we should combine the trash pickup for both the parks and outside of the parks. I think
we're not going to, because they wouldn't accept.
Okay, yeah. I just want to make sure.
Combine it with another sanitation, or we'll figure it out when we get that back to that. But no, we can't combine it.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
Russell Squire.
Thanks. So on the trash pickup point for the parks one, I think there's a bit of a mismatch between the request and the explanation in terms of improving the trash removal, and then the explanation for the parks portion only talks about the need to exterminate or basically.
I noticed that. We'll change that when we redo it.
Okay.
So sorry, I want to give everybody a little bit of a frame of reference. The request itself is from a pick menu, a drop-down menu of options that we have. In our explanation, we can clarify what we're actually really asking. But when you guys see us enter it into the portal later, you'll notice that everything that's under request is a pre-scripted line. So I think in previous years we had to pick, something that related to cleanliness, and the
I think
rodents.
I said it last year too. They changed the system recently, and they made it much more difficult to come up with these requests.
Got it.
It didn't fit what we really needed. So, like, they changed everything. They changed the whole process.
It was a good question, Russell. I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. So that means we're going to need two, essentially, the trash removal is two new items, right? Because it's trash removal in the parks, because that one currently doesn't cover it, and trash removal in the on the streets. And then the last point is, I think, the way to effectuate the point that Felice made about the tree pruning is maybe in the explanation we can emphasize the public safety aspect of it, and that's the reason for it.
All right, thank you, Russell. Is that all you have to say?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Trisha and then Elaine.
Yeah, just very quickly, I agree we need to keep the two trash pieces separate, and that's fine. And then just wanted to thank Felice again for talking about the tree pruning. This is something that we brought on the list last year following a huge storm that had happened, and the dangers that we saw after that. If you remember, this like very heavy snowstorm that came in and just like kind of broke a bunch of trees and pieces and did a lot of damage in our community. Russell, I don't know if Will already asked you to suggest language, but if not, I'm happy to suggest something too to strengthen that. But absolutely agree that this needs to be kept in the budget and strengthened with language if we can.
Thanks, Trisha. Elaine, and that's the last person with their hand up for this item.
The Parks Department has been negligent in doing tree pruning for years. They seem to go to the other boroughs because the trees are on a hill, and after a rainstorm, you know, the mudslides. We've seen the devastation, not tree pruning, whether it's through Central Park or other parks or on our streets. I know, and I'm going to put my other hat on as president of East 86th Street. We paid to have a pruner come in just before the storm. Was it 2 years ago? We didn't have any problems because we had pruned. We also didn't have the money to do it, but we knew we were in a dangerous situation. So I think parks has to be put on notice that pruning is important to the safety. I agree totally. It's a public safety issue. It can be environmental also, but it definitely is a public safety issue, and I'm finished.
Okay. And remember that Will just told us some of the language is awkward because we had to pick certain language. So that's why some of it isn't as strong as it should be. I think. Am I right, Will?
Yes, that is exactly right.
That's what happens. I think they changed this 2 years ago, and it's just absurd. The next one is enhanced home care services. Increase funding for services to older adults, including personal and home care, transportation services, Meals on Wheels, senior congregate care meal programs, and case management. So that takes in everything. And it says the answer was DFTR is aware of the growing aging population and continues to fund programs in this community district, as well as advocate for increased federal, state, and city funding. I think that needs to stay in. I wish it was, so we can't make it stronger. It should be very strong. We see now during this pandemic what a need is for these services.
You have one question or one comment on this one. Barbara Rutter.
Can you add something about greater food deprivation? Also something about food in there, because there was so much.
I didn't hear that. Food.
Can we add something about the food, that there's so much more of a food need, a food deprivation, more services? I know you have it, but can it be stronger with that?
If we can make it stronger. I remember we had to pick certain language.
I thought the explanation is just handwritten.
Yeah. So how would you
make it stronger? And I forget, but will you just add something about a food delivery, or additional food with for greater food need, greater need, particularly amongst the seniors. There's not particularly
for seniors.
Yeah, I'm saying that, but it's not particularly for everybody.
Okay. 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 The next one is.
Oh, you have one more hand up for this one. Sorry, Barbara. It's Billy.
Yep,
I
sorry,
can't
Barbara.
tell when hands are up. How do I know?
It's in the
So
participants list, but yeah, that's what I'm here for.
I was just going to suggest adding in language that maybe mentions the pandemic and the heightened need for transportation services.
Well, this is, remember, this is for July 2022 that we're doing it. I hope,
Yeah,
I hope the pandemic is over.
yeah, I'm of view that, we should be prepared for the worst on this, and I'm not
Okay.
sure, even with the vaccine, how quickly we rebound. So I think the pandemic has shined a light on the need for this, and I don't know whether that makes
Okay,
the
no, I
explanation.
agree. I just hope it's over by then.
Anyhow, that's my 2 cents. I'll mute myself.
Okay,
You're good to go.
okay. Other park maintenance and safety requests. Increase funding for additional roving park maintenance staff, tree pruners and tree climbers. So the parks are really in there twice this one. So that may give us another number.
Yeah, Trisha has her hand up.
Hi, no, Barbara, I don't think so. The parks is not in twice. We just talked about it earlier, but this is all separate stuff. This is trash removal, and then this is tree pruning. So it's
None
not.
of the others, we said tree pruning was in there too.
It wasn't in there before. They were just Felisa just jumped ahead a little bit. It wasn't in there. Yeah, they're
Okay, okay, as long as it's in there. Anybody else?
Nope. Go ahead.
Next one was expand street outreach, increase funding for homeless services, outreach This is for homeless services. I had to see what the outreach was for. Outreach personnel, especially during the overnight hours, and provide Department of Homeless Services with updated information technology equipment. The equipment is capital. Well, depends how expensive it is. Again, it says the agency continually works with provider organizations to enhance services that are working successfully, identifying best practices and expanding those services are ideal.
No hands up for this one.
No hands up, okay. And then it says other programs to address public health issue requests. Increase funding for the Department of Health Enforcement for all food vendor rules and regulations. We know we need, I don't even know if there's any enforcement right now.
You have one hand up already, Elaine.
Okay, I'm slow to the reach on the expanded street outreach.
Which one are you at?
I'm going
10.
back because I
Okay.
went in. Okay. The issue here is that years ago they combined and we lost having a local agency do outreach. And so it's done by Goddard. We are inundated with the homeless. And I'm talking about really the high, and not the ones who just lost housing, but who have mental health and drug problems. We're seeing all over the community. I've talked to a number of community groups. And what we need is not just technology. We need to have outreach workers assigned to us that are out on the streets. Right now, remember, the police are no longer working with the nonprofits to do the outreach unless it's a crime violation, okay? So I really would like to see some change in language, if it's appropriate, to ask for funding for our community to have an organization that is responsible for the outreach.
Elaine, isn't that part of the RFP process? When they did the RFP process, maybe we have to say increase the agencies under the RFP process.
Right, under Bloomberg, they
When
combined,
they did it, they reduced how many agencies were funded. So you have
yes,
to increase the number of agencies. So Community Board 8, an agency within Community Board 8 is funded, is really what you want to happen.
well, that's what I'm saying. Goddard Riverside now has jurisdiction over
I
us.
know.
It used to be Lenox Hill. We've lost the outreach and the different programs we had for the homeless. Right now, it is a violent situation that's going on with the police can only come out if they've seen somebody commit a crime. But the harassment and what's going on and the destitution, it's disgrace what's happening with the homeless.
I agree.
And we need to
Increase the number of agencies funded, I think.
to identify a local agency to do this through the, if it has to be an RFP process, okay. But I disagree with that. I don't think it should be an RFP. It can be an RFP, but it should be localized, not borough-wide.
Within each district, yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, we can
I'm
change
just
that.
sharing that because it's really problematic.
I agree.
You have several other hands up, Barbara, about this. So Ed Hartzog, Russell Squire, Felice, Michelle. Starting with Ed.
Do I need to unmute? No.
You're good.
Oh, good, thanks. Yeah, I just want to echo what Elaine said. And really, I just wanted to chime in real quick to say, I'm sorry, I already spoke to Barbara. I'm sorry, I'm going to have to hop off. I have to take my son to hockey practice, but I will try to call. I'm headed out to Flushing Meadows, but I'll try to call from the parking lot in the car for about an hour if the meeting's still going on. But if we get to housing, I'm going to defer. I just wanted to say I wanted to defer to Barbara. So if you didn't see me or if no one said anything, that's why there's silence from the housing committee. Anyway, hope to talk to you all in about 40 minutes.
Russell Squire.
Thanks. So I think on the homeless services point, I just want to make sure. I think basically there's part of this is also just the underlying services and the need for services, right? It's not just about making sure that there's outreach and that there are people on the street to find folks.
All the services, yeah, it lists the number of services.
Okay, well, so the explanation, it says, okay, so that's something that we'll add. It's not just about
not just about, no.
Right, people on the street overnight and that kind of thing. So that was the point I wanted to make, is make sure that we're getting the additional services too. That was it for me.
Okay, thanks. If you had language that you wanted to put in, just chat it to me. Sorry, Russell. Felice.
So just briefly, because I do agree that the increase in homeless in this neighborhood is a real problem. Maybe take out the reference to technology equipment, because I'm not sure how that benefits the.
Yeah, I don't know why that's in there.
Okay.
It wasn't originally, but they had to change it because of certain rules of OMB.
Okay, so yeah, I just have it to an emphasis on homeless outreach.
Yeah.
Okay, Michelle, or sorry, Felice, were you done?
Yeah, I was just, you had mentioned the Department of Health Enforcement for all food vendors. I just wanted to stress it's more important than ever, because the police, who are the other enforcing agency for street vendors, they have been instructed by the city not to ticket or enforce any activity of the street vendors. So the Department of Health will now remain the only enforcing agency. The Department of Consumer Affairs that offers or gives the licenses, but they are not an enforcing agency. So this is more important than ever.
Yeah, and we can say that when we put it, if we put it into the 2022 budget.
Okay.
And then Elaine, and that's the last hand up.
Okay, just a quickie on the technology. DHS has now the pads and all of the technology they need to do this. So I don't think we need the information technology equipment done. Most of them are working from home, or if they're in the shelters, they all have the systems in place.
Thank you.
That from people who work there.
Yeah, okay, thank you. And number 11 is other programs to address public health issues. This is where it's strange. Increase funding for the Department of Health enforcement of all food, we did that already, food vendors. Okay, that's in at number 11. 12, other expense traffic improvement requests. Increase the number of workers to inspect, repair, and preserve the Department of Transportation's infrastructure, both bridges and roads. I want to say something about roads. I don't know if it goes in here or someplace else. It is almost impossible to walk the streets now. My balance something has happened to my balance during this period, and I have to use a cane. It is so scary to walk in the streets. The streets are cut up, the streets are broken up. When they're repaired, they're not repaired correctly. And a number of people have told me they've fallen. So I don't know if this fits that, or it goes in capital, but we really need that. Does this cover that repairs? Will, do you know?
Which one is it?
12.
Yeah, no, it would.
It would?
I believe so.
Okay. The streets are really impossible to walk on. Betty and I were discussing this earlier.
You have a couple hands up for this one.
Okay.
Michelle, and then Elaine, and then Russell.
Yeah, I wonder if under number 12, with all the talk we've been talking about the Esplanade and all the little sinkholes that are creeping up that are really very, very dangerous. So I don't know if that comes.
Have to be a different item because it's parks.
So without having a third item for parks, can we tag that on to one of the preceding parks requests?
Yeah, I think we should.
And we should add that on because we were working on one sinkhole, and since that time there have been one or two others that have been discovered, and we've been having a lot of conversation about it.
I agree.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, Elaine, and then Russell Squire, and then there's several more after that.
Okay, I just want to say there's a difference between the streets and the sidewalks. There's been a lot of construction on the streets, and I would like to see included in here that DOT needs to hold the contractors accountable when, or utilities, when Con Ed or phone or whatever does work in the street, they are to come back and make the street whole. They're not doing it.
Not doing it at all.
Right. DOT needs to take some leadership on doing this. I don't know how we put it in there, but there's an accountability piece. And the sidewalks are not DOT, except where we come into problems with overgrown trees, but with root systems. But that's a whole other issue to get the owners of property to repair the sidewalks, and DOT is supposed to inspect it. So in some ways it is DOT that should be fining or notifying landlords that they need to fix their sidewalks. I'm finished. I say that because we'll wait.
I know why you're saying it.
No, I appreciate it. I really do.
I don't know. I don't see you on my screen.
Next is Russell, and then Trisha, and then Billy, then Barbara Rutter, and Judy Schneider. Russell.
Thanks. Yeah, I just want to make sure I understand why. It seems to me for this one, inspection on the one hand sounds to me like a service, but repairing and preserving sounds more like capital. And so I just want to, I guess, just sort of so I'm clear, why the latter two would be included in this one, or if that needs to be a separate capital item. And I think, we may want to just suggest putting the repair and preservation portion of it into the capital section if it's not there already.
I think it depends on how much repair is needed, if it goes in capital or expense. Right, Will?
I don't know how the DOT funds the program. But we could check. Maybe I actually see Craig has his hand up. Maybe he knows how the DOT funds that program. If you want, Craig,
I'm
do you
not
know?
entirely sure if this would be considered capital or not, but generally with in terms of maintenance, if it's a state of good repair project that's just part of typical regular maintenance, I would imagine that's more likely to be an expense versus something that would be more of a significant repair, which would be a large dollar sum type of project that would be more capital related, which would be considered state of good repair as well, but not just typical general cyclical maintenance.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Well, yeah, it was probably a question just to understand what the process is. So that makes sense. That was all I had.
Is that it?
Yep.
That was all he had. Then Trisha, and then Billy after that.
Yeah. So I want to respond to Michelle's thing. So the Esplanade sinkholes, that is all capital. So we do not need to add that to this one. It is capital. It is in the capital budget. It is at the top of the capital budget. I'd like to keep it there. We're good on that. So no need to add that there. We have it in the capital, but on the capital side, it's where it's been before. It needs capital money to do those repairs. This is not an easy thing. These are big projects. That's that.
Okay, Billy, and then Judy.
So I was just going to say, back in May, the board passed a resolution calling for the Queensboro Bridge South Outer Roadway to be pedestrianized. There is either a capital or an expense need, not exactly sure what it would be. DOT says they need to add fencing to that South Outer Roadway. Councilmember Kalos and Van Bramer have said that they would fund it. It's not clear whether they would have enough to fund it and whether that's actually going to happen. So I just wonder whether we want to either here or later in the capital budget, depending on what's appropriate, specify that this would also include the Queensboro Bridge and a fencing on the South Outer Roadway. Of course, want to open it up.
That may be capital.
Pardon?
I think that's capital, but.
Yeah, I wasn't sure, and I don't know if Craig has a thought on it, but yeah, if we want to turn back to it on capital, that's fine with me too.
So next is Judy Schneider.
Yes, just to answer Billy's question. Billy, we've been in touch with DOT in preparation for our ESNA annual meeting about the bridge. And they are, they're not going to do anything with that request until the bridge repairs are done, which will not be till the end of 2022. So putting it in now is premature. I think maybe premature.
Well, it doesn't mean we can't request it. They can refuse it, but we can still.
But I'm just saying next year might be a better time for it. But Barbara, I have a question because I got a little lost with all the comments. What was this initial request? Was it for, did it include sidewalks?
Which one are you talking about now?
We're talking about now, the last one.
We're talking about number 12. Increase the number of workers to inspect, repair, and preserve DOT's infrastructure, both bridges and roads.
Okay, because somebody said that sidewalks should be included. Sidewalks are definitely the responsibility of the people who own the property.
Yeah, we know that, yes.
DOT will come out and they will summons them. They will give them stiff violations. And the only time that, because we've made this request, the only time DOT will fix it and back charge, which they did years ago, now they will not do it anymore unless it's absolutely critical and somebody's going to get killed if it isn't fixed. And
I was talking about the streets, but I know the sidewalks. Maybe what we have to do is have people call the office when there's a problem on the sidewalks. So we let them know.
And then Will can report it. That's
Yes.
absolutely the best way.
Next after Judy is Elaine, and then Rebecca Dengor.
I just wanted to comment by the repair and maintenance is an expense because none of these repairs last more than 5 years and they don't fit into capital unless it's a major you know, regrading of an avenue or streets. So I think it's in there because these are not,
They are expense, yeah.
they're expense because they don't last more than 5 years. Feel lucky they last a year. I'm finished.
Next is Rebecca.
I'm looking at one of the documents that Will sent us, and it does say in their guide that roadway maintenance, i.e. pothole repair, resurfacing, trench restoration is a capital expense.
Highway repairs, yeah.
And pothole resurfacing of streets, any roadway maintenance is capital, not expense.
What document were you looking at, Rebecca?
And I sent it to you. I'll just put this to you in the chat too here.
Thanks. I'll put that in for everybody to see.
Oh, okay.
But just to go back to this item, you know, in previous years we discussed that it was about inspections and the number of workers to inspect and repair, which is the reason why I think it was an expense.
So I think we want to request the repair more.
Yeah.
Are you done? And we'll move on.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay, thanks. Sherry.
Hi, I just wanted to understand the process. I have a new item that I want to introduce. It seems like we're done with that whole list.
No,
Is
we
this
have,
the-
we have more, no.
Oh, I thought 12. All right, so
No.
at some point you will ask, I'd like to make a presentation on behalf of
Then
the
we have
Voting
to
Rights
figure out
Committee.
what to take out, because we can only have, we can't have more than 25 items.
Oh, okay, so you'll let me know what, I just wanted to understand what time.
We have
when it
26
was approved.
items. I guess.
I think we can go up to about 30 or
Okay.
other boards. Historically, there's only 25. I think other boards have now started just like having the ability. We're able to have the ability to have more with this new system, but.
So when we finish the list, we'll take any new requests.
Okay, thank you.
Police.
If the purpose of item 12 is to address pedestrian safety issues, then I would add in sidewalks and perhaps remove bridges, since bridges are inspected regularly as part of the biennial inspection process. And that's required, I think, under federal rules. So maybe just emphasize in the explanation that this is a pedestrian safety issue. And it's to inspect and repair roadway surface and sidewalks.
And bridges are probably not city funded. It probably is.
It might be city funded, but I'm not sure it impacts pedestrian safety.
Okay. Okay.
And then Elaine, and that's the last hand up so far for this item.
My issues have been covered. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks. Number 13 is address illegal conversions and uses of buildings. Hire additional Department of Building inspectors for compliance and code enforcement, and hire auditors for applications. I think that's definitely needed, but what the response was, this request has already been funded. Sorry to laugh.
You have one hand up from Michelle.
Yeah, since this is a request from the Department of Buildings, can we just add the word signage to that? We have a lot of illegal signage on our buildings.
I think it needs to be a separate item. This is about uses of buildings.
Excuse me, I just wanted to say, number 13 is requesting additional DOB inspectors for compliance and code enforcement.
Okay.
And traditionally, an inspector from the DOB is also the person who inspects the signage.
Okay.
So if we could just put the word in there.
Okay with me. I was going to give it its own number, but okay.
Okay, and then Marco and then Elaine.
Hi, everybody. With respect to illegal conversions, I think this is the time to put it, to be more specific and concentrate in the illegal hotels, because many affordable housing has been losing with illegal conversions in hotels, transition houses, illegal conversions. And I think our effort, it should be more in that part, because the other regulations that Michelle mentioned, commercial, usually the population, they call to the, for illegal conversions, we have several buildings that have been converted into hotels, illegal hotels. And I think we had to specify these expenses for that part specifically. Thank you.
Elaine?
I wanted to support what Michelle is saying about the signage. It does belong in the item we're discussing. We have tremendous abuse of signage, and they have told us at DOB they don't have staff to go out. Interesting, they can go out to other areas and provide service, but we need to push that our community needs help around the illegal signage that's going on. Finished.
Thank you.
That was the last hand up for this
Okay.
item.
And there's another page after this. So number 14 is provide, expand, or enhance preventive services and community-based alternatives for youth. It says provide additional funding for children's services, especially programs to prevent abuse and neglect. That's number 14. And there's another side of that page. If people got it in the mail, in the.
You have one hand up from Elaine.
This is an extremely important service, particularly during the pandemic.
Yep.
But I have seen no response, no visibility from ACS on what our challenges are and what the stresses are in our community. They focus everywhere else, but we indeed do have a need for preventive services for children abuse situations. People say it's on the uprise, but we have yet in all my years on the board ever seen ACS come to us to discuss this issue. So I think it's an important piece. I know it's low on the item, but I think we should continue this because they have not provided us with what we need.
You have one more hand up from Michelle. Oh, and then another from Rebecca.
I just wanted to note that on number 14, the agency response is ridiculous.
Oh, they're all ridiculous, Michelle. Michelle.
I mean, this just says if you want additional information, who to call. That's hardly a response.
The responses get worse year by year. I can't even complain anymore about it. Okay, number 15.
Oh, you have one more question or one more comment from Rebecca Dangor, and then you're ready.
I just want to echo what Elaine said. If anything, I think last year I even asked for us to move it up a little bit. So once we're finalizing, I think if maybe we want to move it up and hope that we'll get a better response by showing it.
I don't think it will,
more
Rebecca.
of a priority.
Okay. Number 15, assign additional traffic enforcement officers. Provide funding to increase the current number of traffic control agents. Any comments?
Yep, couple. Russell, then Tricia.
So I see that the response refers to crossing guards. And it seems to me that I mean, in my opinion, that's the most important aspect of this request, and I think that I would suggest specifying in the explanation that what we want is, in particular, is more crossing guards, and that's the priority to me. That's the most important aspect of it. So that's a suggestion. That's all I had. Barbara's muted.
Oh, thanks. Barbara, you got muted. Barbara, you're muted. Just unmute at the bottom of your screen. There you go.
What I said is we said that in the explanation. We spoke about school safety agents and crossing guards. Okay.
I see it in the response. I don't see it in the explanation. I think the explanation just says traffic control agents.
But in the next column, it says New York Police Department funding is currently available to maintain both the school crossing guards and school safety agents headcounts. There is no funding available to increase. Oh yeah, okay.
So they're drawing a distinction. So I'm just saying, I mean, I think the point is just to emphasize that
Emphasize it more. Okay, I agree.
Yeah, the school crossing guards are the part we want.
Is there anyone else?
Yes, Trisha, then Judy, then Craig.
So I just want to see, I'm looking at number 15 and looking at number 16 and seeing a lot of similarities. And I'm wondering if this is one of those areas that we can combine. I guess I would defer to Craig and to Barbara Chalky to see if this is something that we can
I
combine.
think 15 was, we wanted to emphasize the school guards. I think that's a separate funding stream.
Okay, then the traffic enforcement unit?
Yeah, it's separate.
Okay, then my other question is that for traffic enforcement unit, which I know is the next one, and I guess my question is to Craig, if we can add something about placard monitoring placards to cut down on placard abuse. That's something that we've talked a lot about, and I don't know if that's something that can be added to this one.
I don't know if it can be added. Craig?
Craig is, I'm going to go just one out of order and skip Judy for a second.
Sorry, Judy. Actually, Trisha, I was going to make the same comment regarding placards. I guess my opinion is that we should keep these separate. I think they're, in terms of 15, understanding and emphasizing the need to have school crossing guards as well. I think if we're talking about traffic enforcement officers, we also need to ideally have more officers for traffic control at high volume, high congestion, safety compromised locations within the district, like near the 59th Street Bridge and near the exits. We know the issues on 2nd Avenue and even coming off the bridge at the FDR Drive in 96th Street, where they're already there sometimes. They're really critical in terms of keeping traffic hopefully moving, which of course has impacts on air quality and air pollution and safety. So I don't know if that could be added to it, but that's also, I think, very important as well. And then regarding 16, absolutely placards. And I think that a lot of this comes down to just traffic enforcement in general, parking enforcement, because we've talked a lot about issues regarding not just placard abuse, but double parking issues and the quality of life issues that causes, whether it be Fairway on 86th Street as an example, or some of the other examples that we keep hearing about.
Great. So I would do all of what Craig said, keep them separate, add more traffic control to the first one, and then add placard enforcement and general parking enforcement to the second one. Thank you.
Okay, next after Trisha was Judy. Sorry, did we skip to Judy?
That's okay. Traffic control agents. desperately needed here in the 60s, especially with these new bike lanes that make 61 and 62 narrower. Traffic is backing up on First because the traffic is stopping on First, the cross traffic, and there's no agent. It's stopping on York, it's stopping on Second, it's stopping on Third. So we need traffic control agents, and that request shouldn't be confused with any other request. It's a desperate need. The bridge, as Craig mentioned already, has a high volume of accidents and I think death even. We need traffic control agents. I can't stress that strongly enough for the 60s, and I wouldn't want to see anything mixed up with the traffic control agents.
Thanks, Judy. Craig, you still have your hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry. I guess just in response to Judy, I'd suggest if there is room for another item, that perhaps that becomes a separate listing, traffic control agents.
Well, we'll try to add it. We can.
And then Elaine Walsh is the last one with her hand up on this.
I think we need to add something about the traffic control, since the police are not doing it, the monitoring of the bicyclists.
Oh, yes.
Who are not following any of the regulations and has become a dangerous public safety issue. Whether it's bikes or scooters. But there's no enforcement of whatever is on the road that's not 2 feet or a 4-wheel car.
Yeah.
And we need to add something because it's become a problem crossing the streets, going, you all know what the problem is. We need to have some enforcement here. And I have to say, with all of the accidents going on with the bikes, is that there is, and maybe it doesn't belong here because it's a state issue, there must be a process to have people take lessons on how to ride a bike, etc., as we do with cars. Licensing. So I just say we need to put in here enforcement on the bicyclists. They refuse to ride in the direction they're in. And
they're all right on the sidewalk.
Thank you. They're all on the sidewalk. That's a whole other story. Thank you.
All right, that's the last hand up for that question or item.
Is that it?
That was the last for that item. So on to 17, I believe.
17.
Or actually just 16. I don't know if you read out loud.
Okay, 7. Yeah, we did do 16. 17 is increase health inspectors, example for restaurants. Well, I don't know what they're doing now with it. I don't even know if they're inspecting health inspectors and inspecting restaurants right now. But we can't, it's even more important now during the pandemic. We have to make sure the restaurants are following the rules.
You have one hand up for this one so far, Tricia.
I can tell you that they are doing health inspections. I have friends who own restaurants in the area. They are doing health inspections. I just wanted to mention that I think I guess I would defer to the group. I'm going to push for this in the new stuff too, or we can do it here. But I think that we actually need to be calling for something very different with relates to our relation to our restaurants. I think that we need to be calling for additional supports and programmatic abilities to help our restaurants and other small businesses survive. So I would really, I can tell you that they are doing these food inspections already. I would rather us talk about ways, I would rather us turn this into requests to the small business services and others to create grants and other opportunities for more funding to help our small businesses survive.
Okay, that's a separate item, I think. Is that it?
One more, Sherry Wiener.
Yeah. I would think we need to expand the explanation to take into account COVID-19 enforcement, which I think is it is different than just health inspection. It's adhering to appropriate COVID-19 regulations.
That makes sense.
So I think just under explanation, I believe it's still the health inspectors who are doing it, but I think we should expand that we want funding for people to be going out to the different restaurants to make sure. It's not even just restaurants. I believe it's food stores and all retail establishment. I mean, I think it needs to expand. We have to identify, I think that we should identify that there's a need for COVID enforcement, even though I know you're saying it's next summer, but as you know, who knows how long this may be
I don't
going
want
on.
us to lose track of when this budget starts. It's July.
Yeah, I understand that.
Okay, no, I'm not saying no, but I just want people to know that.
Okay, thank you.
There's the last hand up for this item. So.
Okay, number 18 is to enhance programs for elder abuse victims. Provide funding for eviction prevention services for at-risk senior citizens. It should be for all for at-risk, and the housing committee is working on this. And evictions are supposed to still be frozen. There's not supposed to be evictions for anybody, seniors or non-seniors. So that have to stay in there, I think.
You have one hand up. Rebecca?
Hi, just going back to the fact that, this will start in July. I do think it needs to stay in because we don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, no, we hope. I mean, it's been extended, but not enough.
Yeah, so I would vote to keep it.
Yeah. Okay, number 19 is extend library hours or expand and enhance. We're talking about Sunday services. I'm waiting for services during the week now, but I think we should keep it in. And there was a group of requests. You have that list, Will, of what the libraries were requesting?
Yes, I have it. Do you want me to put it up, or we can put it up at the end of?
We can put it up at the end if we don't cover it. Yeah, I think we should still keep Sunday services in, but I don't think it's going to happen in 2022.
No hands up for this. So
the next one is other garbage collection and recycling requests. Increased recycling program, including solid waste. I think they cut back on the solid waste. They cut back on some of those programs. So I think they have to stay in there.
You have a couple of hands up for this one. First Craig, then Rebecca, Barbara Rudder.
I'm not sure if it would fit into this category, but I would like to see some mention of composting in here.
I didn't hear what somebody just said. It wasn't clear.
Craig.
Composting, can you hear me?
Composting, yeah, we should put it back in, yeah. That can go in there, I think.
Thank you.
All right, and then I saw Barbara had her hand up, but she's lowered it, so I think she said go on.
Okay, number 21 is other public housing maintenance, staffing, and management requests. Increase funding to ensure all NYCHA community and senior centers remain open, maintain all current open space. I think there's real problems now with the NYCHA buildings. We just found out there was a problem with ventilation in the NYCHA buildings. They're not ventilated properly, which makes it much more dangerous for the spreading of the virus. And I think we just need to keep that in there like that. It's a real problem we know with NYCHA.
You have one hand up, Felice.
I just wanted to say that I thought that this was a really important issue and that maybe we want to consider moving it up in priority. We've also talked about what we could do as a board in terms of equity and inclusion. And so we should be taking a greater emphasis on what we can do to improve the NYCHA housing in our community.
Yeah, we don't have the money, much of it, but I think that, I agree that could be moved up.
Last question on this, or last comment on this is Russell.
Yeah, also on the NYCHA point, and I don't know if we can combine it into this one or if it has to be a separate one, but what about services like, just sort of basic repairs, lead removal that's way behind, things like that? I mean, I think that's another thing that.
I think that's included. Well, because it says community centers and senior centers. That's
Right, and maintain all current open space. So it doesn't address repairs and
yeah, I think that
like
should
lead
that
removal.
should be an additional one.
I think item 23, which you guys can look down to, is probably where that may want to fall in.
That's right. Yeah. Okay. Yes. And maybe that should be moved up too.
Just provide more health and building inspectors for NYCHA facilities. And I think that when we'd gone over it previously, that this was sort of the one about lead and mold and everything.
Okay.
We could be more clear about it probably.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I was looking at this page, so I didn't see it. But
turn the page. Number 22. I don't know why it says other expense budget request, why it's put that way, but fund additional DCA inspectors for sidewalk cafes and compliance permits, regulation enforcement. I don't know if anybody's doing that now.
No, they're not inspecting those right now, but again, FY22, something will be different. You have two hands up.
Hopefully, yeah.
Sherry, and then Gail.
Perhaps this is perhaps a better place to put in my suggestion on the COVID enforcement.
Yeah.
As opposed to the other, which was the health department. Maybe it's DCA who's doing.
No, I don't think they do enforcement.
Well, doesn't it say the issue? I'm just. Well, it says DCA inspectors. Okay. Inspectors would seem to imply enforcement.
Okay.
We also need to update the language because it's no longer technically the DCA, it's DCWP.
Yeah. Consumer
and Worker Protection.
Do they do the enforcement?
But I'm not sure. Somebody is definitely enforcing like the number of people who are in restaurants and.
Oh yeah, that's thing. I don't know who's doing that.
Well, maybe we could research that because it's not technically food inspection. It's it's COVID inspections.
It's compliance inspection.
And compliance, yeah, it's a compliance. That's why I'm thinking it may be more appropriate to put it here than in the previous number, which just dealt with health inspections.
Yeah. Next is Michelle, and then Marco, and then Judy.
I just wanted to say that the DCA, when it refers to compliance here, it's permit compliance. They want to make sure they have permits. But the DCA is not an enforcing agency.
That's what I thought. But the permits are working differently right now.
Right. It's the permits, like, for example, if a vendor has a permit, the DCA would deal with that. But if the vendor has an infraction, that's sanitation. If it's a food vendor, and it used to be the police, it no longer is. So that's not what that means here. It's just compliance that they have a permit.
Next, Marco.
I think who enforced the COVID regulation is Department of Health. Right now, all the restaurants, the Department of Health, they ask to the restaurants to comply with the 25% capacity. That's what they're doing right now, Department of Health. That's it. Thank you.
Thanks. And then Judy is the last person with their hand up.
Yeah, compliance for what DOT is issuing, the permits, the DOT issues, they're doing the enforcement for their permits.
Thank you. Okay, 23, I think we discussed it before. improve public housing maintenance and cleanliness. That's where that maintenance comes in. Should we add repairs? Maybe we
you
should
have two hands up.
maintenance and repair, maybe.
Marco and then Russell.
I should put it is extermination because I read the violations in NYCHA. They talking about bed bugs, and I think they should be included in that part. Thank you.
And Russell.
Yeah, so I I would call out lead specifically also as another item that really needs to be addressed. But then to your suggestion, Barbara, yeah, I think we should specify that we're also talking about the actual repairs and not just the not just the inspectors.
Right.
That was all I had.
We have Rebecca.
And I would also call out mold specifically as well.
Oh, definitely.
All right, all those are noted. Marco, you had something else.
I forgot to mention, NYCHA has 3,800 complaints of repairs in the building, and the majority are the elevators. And I think we can include that part in this case. So elevators and extermination of bed bugs. That's what I read in the violations. Thank you.
That's the last hand you had up.
Okay. Number 24 is enhance park safety through more security staff, police or park enforcement. And that's the PEP offices. And that I got calls about that too. People want more PEP offices. That was
Trisha has her hand up.
Yes, so obviously this is something that we get concerns about all the time, with particularly with the misuse of park space with dogs and other things like that. It's just something that we just need. We specifically we need PEP officers. These are the people we call all the time for whatever comes up that needs to be addressed. So I just want to say that our Parks and Waterfront Committee get these concerns a lot.
Okay.
And Judy.
Yeah, I agree with Trish, and I would like to see this moved up. We have always had it at the end of the list. I think this
I
is,
don't think it really matters what end it is on, but I don't care where we put it.
my personal opinion is I'd like to see it moved up. Certainly in this time of COVID that isn't going away soon, our parks are getting much heavier usage than they had before. And I think the PEP officers, as Trish said, are extremely important.
That's the last hand that you had up for this
The
item.
next one was to provide, expand, or enforce rental assistance programs. I obviously think that's very important. It's very general statement because most of the funds will be state or federal funds, and I don't think we're going to see that. But and their answer is this request has already been funded. So you don't need anything more because it's funded already. That's an absurd answer. I think that needs to stay in.
No hands up on
Okay.
that.
And 26 is plant new street trees. Anything on that?
One hand up from Trisha.
I would actually like to combine this with another one. I think that the tree pruning thing, the one that we had already with tree.
No, I think it's a different item. New
trees.
Yeah, new trees is different than I think.
Okay, that's fine. Just trying to reduce.
I think it's a different item.
That's fine.
Marco has his hand up.
I think in these planting new street trees, I found a serious concern because in Manhattan, we build, we repair so many buildings, and we change the use so many buildings, more than 25%, and all of them are required to provide one tree within 25 feet. And if they provide one tree for every 25 feet, if it's not possible to plant it, there is a possibility to pay, to give money, but that money go to the Department of Parks, and they plant whatever they want. What we have to ask at the same time is those trees, those are trees that has been produced or in some way in our community, it should be planted within our community, not with the outside of our community. And I think in that part, it will lead to enforce properly the location of the trees, because otherwise we spent most of the development. They do a lot of jobs right here, and they plant in another communities. And I think we have to start thinking is to put trees in our streets. Thank you.
Michelle.
Yeah, I apologize. I didn't hear the first part of Marco's comments, so he may have covered this. But I know that I have requested new trees, and as long as I give them a location, the tree gets planted at the requested location. So I think if we want to do this, you know, rather than just say we want new trees planted, we would have to give them a list of locations, or at least follow up.
You have to do that, yeah.
Thank you.
And Elaine, that's the last hand up for this.
In reference to the tree planting, we have in parts of the community board development going on where they're required to do planting. Many of them have confronted what we call vaults on the sidewalk, so they can't plant. And so they've made a donation to the Parks Department. There is no way for us to track this. And I think this is important because we are going to, as president of East 86th Street, request that DOT, for the $11,000 donation for trees, they come back to the community. There is no accountability or transparency. What goes on when a developer is required to plant trees, but can't because of of vaults. So I'm asking to modify this to ask that any development that's required to have trees, and they all are, that it come back to our community, if not in the present site, but in another location. So how we modify that, I really would like to see us do, because we again are losing to other communities what we are entitled to in our community. I'm finished.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, that was the expense budget. I think we pretty much agreed that all the items should stay in. Somebody had a recommendation for an additional item. Was somebody wanted to add an item?
Trisha has her hand up, but I think Sherry was the one who was also asking.
Sherry, you asked to add one. You want to go first?
Trisha's already has her hand up, so since I can see her.
Can I ask mine first if Sherry's not? I don't know where Sherry is.
Yes, go ahead. There's Sherry.
Okay, so this is going back to our small businesses. We have nothing in here that talks about small business recovery, and I can guarantee you that with 1 in 6 small businesses closing in New York City, we will have this problem in FY22.
I have no problem with that, but remember, this doesn't feed in until July 2022.
Which is what I just said, Barbara. This is going to be a continued issue. We will still feel the repercussions of this for that long. So I think that we need, and I'm going to push for in a list of 26, 27, I would like to see that this be above number 15.
I'm not going to get involved in where we move it to, except if you want to go to 6 a.m. So put it wherever you want. I'm not going to get involved in that because we'll spend hours doing it, moving it
So
around.
I would like us to have, and Will, I'm happy to send you the language, but I'd like us to ask for additional financial supports and other type of resources be allocated to our small businesses to help with recovery.
And I am going to just ask that we move the NYCHA items up, the maintenance of NYCHA items up too. Okay.
I know. Yeah, Sherry had.
Sherry.
Hi, this is a recommendation of the Voting Rights Reform Task Force. Every year we have complaints that there aren't enough in-person voting locations now for not only the regular election, but for the early voting. And I would like us to put in a request for additional funding for voting locations and to have mechanics available to fix the voting machines when they break down. This has been a tremendous issue that they only have like one mechanic for the whole borough or something, and and they can't come there. So I have a dual request under voting reform, resources,
I think it's a good idea.
Resources for additional in-person voting, and also funding for mechanics to make sure that the machines are operating. That would be my recommendation.
What about additional drop boxes?
Well, if you had more voting locations, you could have you would have then more drop boxes. I don't know, New York seems to have a model that they only want to have drop boxes at voting locations. Whereas I know like in New Jersey, they have drop boxes at City Hall, but that doesn't seem to be the New York model. But I think if you had more locations, you would have more drop boxes. So I think it goes hand in hand, but it's just a continual issue, and it doesn't seem like it's going to go away. People just don't trust voting by absentee, so I think we need more in-person locations.
We'll see what happens this year.
Right.
Anybody else?
Yeah, one more. Gail Barron.
I would like to second what Tricia has said about resources for the small business community, because frankly, even when the pandemic is over, recovery is not going to happen in a year or two. So the more resources that we can provide to our retail, to our restaurants, to all of our other small businesses, it's what we need to create the vibrancy that we want to bring back to New York City. And I also agree, if we decide where we want to start to prioritize within the list, and I'm sure, Barbara, that the funders look and the agencies look at all of them, and they may not look at number 1 versus number 26, but I think that this is so critical to the economy of the city and the vibrancy that I'd like to also see that small business resources would go somewhere in the middle versus down.
That makes sense. Now, as we went along, some people were going to send in language. I think that's important to send Will some new language with the understanding we don't know if he'll be able to put it in the way he have to use the drop boxes to get the language. So he'll come as close as he can.
Yeah, I will.
Which makes no sense why we have to do it that way, but
okay.
We recommended one year that they change everything. Of course, they ignored us. Okay.
Yeah, I don't have anybody else with their hands up for expense. So, Barbara Rudder has her hand up for expense.
A little confused. The drop box is just a general category, but the language goes in the explanation, doesn't it? That's free text. Yeah. Am I right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so the language is very important. It's explaining what the drop box is. That's all I have to say.
No, that's you're right. We're just trying to match the right things to the right things.
Yeah.
Okay, does everyone,
Rebecca has her hand up, and that's the last hand up. Rebecca.
I forget, is there a character limit for the explanation?
I think so, but I don't have it up.
I
in front
kind
of
of
me.
remember that, but just if you're writing explanations, maybe try and bear that in mind. Because I vaguely remember there was one last year, but I could be wrong.
Okay, is there a motion to adopt the expense budget for 2022, taking the 2021 budget and the changes we made?
You have a few hands up. Sorry, go ahead.
I think we have a list. There were a bunch of items about moving things up.
Okay, you want to do it now? Or you want to do it like at 2 a.m. when we finish the budgets? I don't care when you do it. I'm not looking at that. I can't deal with that right now. So just if any changes anybody wants to make, we'll have to vote on each change and then go back and vote on the whole budget.
Gail has her hand up and Sherry has her hand up.
Well, maybe we can just as a group decide which our priorities are. I don't think there were that many that were going to be moved up. You know, we asked for small business services, we asked for schools, a couple of things with parks. So if we can just decide, maybe we can just do that pretty quickly, Barbara, to make it easier for you.
Yeah, that's what I meant with the changes that were made and include those in the 2022 budget.
Correct.
That's what I meant. That's what I meant. I'm sorry I wasn't clearer.
I can propose an idea that might help everyone, and feel free to shoot this down. We could create a form for everybody who is in the meeting, and we could list and let you prioritize in a Google form that you guys can do over the next few days, and then we'll build the list based on how you guys prioritize
I'm concerned
it.
about the open meeting law for that. I think we need to vote tonight.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I'm just concerned about.
No, that's.
Mm-hmm.
Sherry.
I think we still need a motion to approve. Yeah, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the expense budget
For 2022.
For 2022.
The changes that were made.
And I would leave it up to Barbara and Will, after hearing our comments, to change the priority, or if there aren't that many that we've requested to be moved up. I think that would be the easiest way to do it.
Is there a second to that motion?
Yes, I see Felice gave a thumbs up and Michelle gave a thumbs up.
Okay. Anybody want to call the question?
Michelle, was that what your hand is up for?
Well, that's okay. But what I was going to suggest is, my recollection is it's only 3 items that we're requesting to be moved up. And the request was specified somewhere in the middle. Yeah. So I would be okay with Barbara and Will just putting those 3 somewhere in the middle and leaving it at that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'll call a question.
Second.
So should we do it like we usually do? Anybody voting no or abstaining?
Yes, I think.
On calling the question or the vote on the.
All in favor of calling the question?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Anybody who wants to abstain or vote no, please raise your hand.
Rebecca Dangor.
This is just a reminder for the record that Ed is not back yet, so we shouldn't include him in the tally.
I was going to read the list of people who are here.
Okay.
Elaine has her hand up. Oh, she doesn't. Do you?
You said 2022, isn't it the 21-22?
No, we're voting on 2022 that begins July 1st. That's what we're voting on tonight. We did the.
But that's
We did the
That's
2020.
21, 22.
No, the fiscal year 2022 is definitely, fiscal year begins July 1st, 2022. We're responding to we reviewed the 2021 and now we're doing the 2022.
Okay, fine.
That's I know that's how they do it. We
Okay.
adopted, the one we adopted says fiscal year 2021. It was the adopted budget that I think you all should have gotten.
Russell.
I think it's still a little unclear. It's the fiscal year 2021 is the fiscal year that ends in 2021, right? It ends in July of 2021, and the one we're talking about is the one that starts in 2021 and goes until 2022.
That's right, but it's called the fiscal year 20.
Understood. I just wanted to make sure that,
Yeah.
So everybody is voting yes on the expense priorities for FY22. And I'm going to read off the names just so that it's in the public record and in the video. Barbara Chalky, Barbara Rudder, Billy Freeland, Brian Correa, Craig Lader, Elaine Walsh, Felice Farber, Gail Barron, Marco Tamayo, Michelle Birnbaum, Rebecca Dangor, Russell Squire, Sherry Weiner, Trisha Shimamura, and we can move on to whatever capital, or is that what you want to do, Barbara?
Yes, okay. Now we have the capital budget. Again, there's the responses there. So, okay, number one was services for the homeless. Department of Homeless Service should work closely with HPD to fund much needed housing for the more vulnerable and of our residents. We ask that this request be given the necessary funding and highest priority in the 5-year plan. And what their response was, this request has already been funded. Any hands up? Anybody want to say anything?
No hands up right now.
Okay, we don't have to respond to the responses because I'll just get too upset. Number two.
Oh, Sherry Weiner has her hand up. Sorry, Barbara.
Isn't this an expense item? I don't see how it falls on.
We want them to build housing. That's a capital.
Oh, to build housing. All right,
Yes.
sorry. Okay.
Fund much needed housing. They have to fund the housing.
And then Rebecca Dangor and Michelle have their hands up about this.
Oh, I'll let Michelle go. I was just going to remind everyone of what she said earlier about building new schools, and I triple checked, and it's definitely a capital expense, so it should be added.
Okay, we'll add it.
Yeah, Rebecca, that's exactly what I was going to talk about. I would like the building of schools to be moved to number 1.
Oh, okay, fine. That's okay with me. I think you have to request what kind of schools you want.
Elementary, middle, and high school.
Okay. Okay. Then
I think they're all different items.
I know
the way they do it.
Well,
if they are all different items, then let them be 1, 2, and 3. With the most pressing actually being high school, and then number 1, middle number 2, and elementary number 3, because we have more elementary than either of the others.
Okay. It's okay. We have enough room for all of those. Okay, then what was numbered? I'm not going to read. I'm going to read the old numbers. Okay. The next one was. Okay, so we still want to keep the request services for the homeless in, right?
Yes, but it would be moved to number 4.
I know. But I said I'm reading the old numbers. It's too confusing to me to read the new ones. The next one is creating a new or renovate or upgrade. This is the public library. Will, did they put this on their list? This is my thing. We put it in every year. The Yorkville Library is not accessible. It needs a ramp and an elevator.
Let me really quickly pull up what they
That's the Yorkville
sent.
Library.
Everyone,
They did a request.
yeah, every one of you should have received a copy of it. They have for 67th Street a ADA lift replacement, and that's the only thing.
This is the Yorkville. I'm going to still put it in, even if they don't, because the library heads told the local librarians not to include it. But you can't get into the library if you're a senior with a wheelchair or crutches, and you can't get in if you have a child in the carriage. So I'm adding that one, even if they don't want to add it. If everybody agrees. It's not accessible at all.
No hands up, so.
Okay. The next one is to provide funding to repair, restore, and design the entire Esplanade, including the piling on the lower level between 60th and 125th Street, and install below ground infrastructure to expand water access along the entire Esplanade. Tricia, is that right?
Tricia has her hand up.
Tricia?
The only thing I'm going to add is suggest adding is expedited, or in some way adding some sort of kind of immediate urgent need for this. So if we can add some sort of language there, I'm happy to play around with it. And Will, I'll add something there to express that this is an urgent need.
Okay, the next one is again a library one, providing funding for a new HVAC system on the Webster and Yorkville branch libraries. Tell me again what HVAC was. I think it's about the book distribution, right?
What was the question, Barbara?
HVAC, what is that again? This is for Webster and
Heating and air conditioning.
That's what.
And we have 3 questions or comments on this, or I think a couple.
Did the library have that on their list?
They did not.
Well, I think, okay, then call on the people who want to make comments about that.
Marco, and then Russell, and then Judy.
I was raising the hand on the item number 3. I was talking to one of the reps from the park department, because how are we gonna repair and do all these kind of jobs if we don't know what is the condition of the seawall? And if the seawall is not prepared, is not in good condition, you gotta keep repairing every single day. You gotta waste money. And Department of Parks, they are reluctant to release what is the conditions of the seawall, because if somebody else come in with technical issues of piling, that probably is more likely that they don't understand what is piling. There is a different kind of techniques for the seawall, and therefore to put something to waste money, I don't think is a smart idea. We have to organize properly.
Marco, they have till July to figure this out. And I know Tricia.
What we have to do is we can recommend to have a diagnosis, a proper diagnosis of the seawall.
Tricia, you want to respond to
that? Much better. What are they requesting?
Tricia, do you want to respond to that?
Yeah, so a couple things. I mean, yes, Marco, we've asked for these reports. I can follow up with them. This is capital. This is not even another, and we've also passed a resolution calling for an immediate study to be done on the Esplanade and its structure. So I think that this is, I mean, I think that I stand by this being the request because it's a capital request. And there's some actual structural repairs that need immediate addressing. And then in terms of the request for a study to be done, this is something that we because this is FY22, we've already asked for this now. We've asked to be done immediately in complete agreement with what you're saying. So this is something that we've done. We will continue to do, and I absolutely hear you. But this is capital, and we're calling for this, for that side of the budget.
Well, I had to be in disagreement. That is not exactly what I'm saying. Probably you don't understand what I'm saying. And the issue, the bottom line right here is, you cannot put money where is in poor conditions. You cannot put money in the black hole. You have to keep putting money and money in the black hole and never can end it. And we had to stop that. We had to do something tangible, something that is safe, sound for everybody. And no, every single year, oh, it collapsed right here. No, it repaired right here. Oh, they're coming with different ideas or different problems every single time, and everybody go and take a picture. Oh, look what they did. Look what we found. That's not the way that we have to assess the condition of the Esplanade. We have to make something actually that we can follow up. And the best way, this is a capital investment, and this is what we need to have a real study of the seawall. Because at the end of the day, probably will be more likely, right, to repair one section. We have to start thinking to put a new wall parallel to the existing. But I don't want to come with the solutions without even understand what is exactly the condition of the seawall. And what we had to do is obviously to have an emergency repairs. Yes, obviously we have to keep having this money to repairs. But meanwhile, we have to have the study, but not a study that just only one part of the section. We have to see the whole Esplanade. So then we can repair properly and see the outcome of this investment, see in the future and the benefit of the community. But in this case, it's not only the Esplanade. The major issue is going to erode and destroy the FDR. Because when it's coming, these kind of problems, it erodes continually to inside of the land, and that it will be affected the FDR. So we need to do something comprehensive and reasonable. Piling is something that probably maybe they use in old technology. We cannot use old technology and old ideas. These ideas are old, and we have to come in with more modern ideas and repair properly our Esplanade. And I'm talking different what Tricia said, completely different. It's nothing equal. Thank you.
Thanks.
Anybody else on that one?
Yes, there's a lot of hands up right now. We have Russell, then Judy, then Michelle, and then Barbara Rudder.
So I think we had gotten to 4 also, and I have my comments about 4. And I think we should move this item way down. I think it's 4 is the HVAC system at the branch libraries. I think in terms of priority, it's less significant than.
Yes, that one. Wait a minute, you want to move that one down? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's less of a priority.
Okay, the capital really doesn't matter, so I don't care where you move it to.
Okay, I guess just sort of. Well, so at a minimum, the other point I just wanted to make is there's another, I think there's another HVAC library item.
Yeah, they may be separate. They're supposed to be all separated, but
yeah, they can be separate, but I would sort of also group them together in terms of priority.
Okay, I don't care what I'm saying. I don't care where you put the capital budget.
So I would just move this one down to where the other library HVAC item is. That's my suggestion, and that's I'm done.
Judy Schneider. Judy?
Judy?
Judy disappeared?
Okay.
Okay. Michelle?
With reference to Marco's comments, since we have room, we can do, I believe, we should address it. I don't care which way the committee wants to do it, but I think we should address it so we can have a separate request for a capital project on the seawall, or we can add it to number 3, put the word seawall in there.
I think it should be a separate,
you want to word it and make it stronger.
I think it should be a separate one.
Okay, so let's say that. And maybe Marco wants to provide the exact wording since he very clearly understands the situation, but let's make it another one. And we should cluster it next to this one.
That's
so
fine.
That at least they're one after another. The seawall item should probably precede this one, just logically.
Barbara Rudder, and then if Judy had anything she wanted to say about this item, raise your hand again, Judy.
Can you unmute Tricia also, because I want her to to have the discussion about it. I think this whole thing with the Esplanade, I have two comments. First of all, they don't just patch it. The old days, they just came in with plastic or whatever and shoved in a hole. They have an engineer going in now and they have some idea. But in terms of studies, Trish, am I right that they do periodic studies? And the next item, I do object to saying we need to do one study from 60th to 125th, because it is impossible for everything to be done. You're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars. So what I like is when they did a study to have the priorities and maybe to work on a more limited, the higher priorities one. There seems to be this idea we can have one study and fix everything at once. And unless we end up with $1 billion, I don't see how we're going to do it. So I wish we would structure it so it could be more realistic. I don't know, Tricia, do you have any comments?
I will try to be brief. So keeping in mind that this is FY22, I think that we need an immediate study of the Esplanade, which is why we passed a letter. We got a letter sent over to the agencies, which is why we passed a resolution calling for an immediate study of the Esplanade. The last study that was done was in 2018. Completed at the end of 2018 into 2019, and we called for an immediate study of the structural safety of the Esplanade. I think that needs to happen well before 2020 FY22. I think it needs to happen yesterday, and it needs to be done to look at the entire structure of the Esplanade. That's why we are pushing for it and why we've continued to push for that. I understand. I guess I do see Marco is concerned about the word piling. I think that we can change that. We can add seawall to that. And I think that and to be more specific about those things. But I do think that we are being broad enough saying that we need the immediate and urgent funding to repair and fully restore and ensure the structural safety of the entire Esplanade. I think that is being comprehensive and taking this very seriously and pushing for this and not being specific as to or too prescriptive in that process. The other piece, what was I thinking about the other piece to this? And then in terms of adding another item to this, calling for another study to be done, sure. But again, I don't think that that's capital. I think that that's expense. So that's my piece on that.
I remember it being very expensive. Is the study still around $1 million?
Capital versus budget. That's what I'm sorry, capital versus expense in terms of budget, not a descriptive quality of how expensive it was. But I don't remember the exact amount of the study, but the last one was done in 2018. We've asked for a copy of that study, and we've also asked for another one we've passed resolutions, sent letters. I've made phone calls on this. We've done everything we've been trying to do to get them to study the structural integrity of the entire Esplanade now.
Hey, Barbara, are you done?
Yep.
Okay, thanks. Judy and then Michelle. Judy.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. I agree with what Tricia had to say. And when you ask for the Esplanade, you cannot split the seawall from the Esplanade. It's integral part. You can't fix the top without fixing the bottom. And to answer Barbara's very first question, HVAC means heating, ventilating, and air conditioning. Thank you.
And then Michelle Birnbaum.
Yeah, I think the seawall, whether or not you're separating it from the Esplanade, no matter how the wording is, Marco's going to work on that. I think it does belong in the capital budget because I'm not asking for a study. We're asking for repair. We presume that when you want repair, that they will send engineers out to do a comprehensive evaluation. I don't think we have to talk about that. And so the repairs, of course, I think belong in the capital budget.
Okay, Tricia and Marco.
Yeah, I agree with that, Michelle, wholeheartedly. I think repairs absolutely go into the capital budget.
Marco.
In the last meeting with Parks, I asked the person from Parks, what kind of engineers you have? And I asked if they have a geological engineer, a hydraulic engineer. They are the expert. A structural engineer cannot do that. It has to be a person that understands dealing with water. And this is where this is a specific field that is extremely important to have in their team. So when they have a contractor to repair any sink or any holes in the Esplanade, he has to be right there, because you cannot give the authority to the contractor. The contractor must follow the instructions of the technician. This is where there is one specific field, and that's what we need to, that the Parks Department should have one of these engineers to be present at that time, not to give to the contractor, oh, look at the, because they describe that it has been looking everybody. No, the issue right here, it has to be a specific professional, because this is not a simple matter. To deal with water is hard. Sometimes it's become impossible, but that is where there is a specific field for that. So my impression is probably we can recommend in one of these items that the Department of Parks should have one of these engineers and their team, so that we can have something better opinion about the issues that may rise in the future of the Esplanade. And in addition to that, it will lead directly not only to the erosion of the FDR, but also may lead to the flooding area in the three parts that specifically happen in our community: low 60s, mid 70s, low 80s, and then in 96th Street. That basically, it will describe how we're going to repair and how we combine this problem that affect those buildings in that section. So not only is the FDR, but also are the buildings that are affected. And that's my concern. That's what I'm looking to have a completed, to know the complete situation of that seawall. Because once we know exactly, then we can recommend what to do in the future. And meanwhile, if we can keep just only spending money, that in reality we need that definitely. But the point is, we have to stop the point to is keep spending. One and two. Usually, small works are extremely expensive. If you have a big job, usually are less expensive. So, from that point of view only, we need to have a good concept, a good diagnosis of the Esplanade, of the seawall of our district. I'm not ambitious to go to 125, but at least within our community, and that's basically we had to discuss in the boundaries of our community. I don't want to be ambitious to go to 125. It should, but that is not our role to involve to other communities. With us, it's too much already. Just imagine to include another community board. If they are willing to come and work with us, fine. But meanwhile, we have to just only think in our section. Probably 96th Street, we have to start thinking probably to go maybe to 100 or more, because that section floats in the area of the NYCHA buildings. So this is why extremely crucial is to have a good diagnosis of the seawall. Thank you.
Ella, you have your hand up.
Yes, thank you. While everything that Marco says is very valid, I think for the purposes of our statement, our explanation, I don't think we can include it all. I don't think it's necessarily our place to tell the city engineers what kind of engineer they will or will not need. But I don't think it's a bad idea to include in the wording, which Marco is going to outline, to just include in the wording before repair, to just say we'd like a complete diagnostic and repair. And you could maybe add so that the correct engineers are involved. But I don't think that's about as far as I would go. I don't think it's our place to tell the city of New York, this is not their first rodeo. So I don't think we need to tell them which engineers they use and for what reason. But if you want to work those couple of words into a statement that would be appropriate as an explanation, I think that's a good idea. I have no problem with it.
That is the last hand up for this item.
Anybody else?
No, no more.
Okay, the next one, which we really discussed when we were talking about expense issues, is roadway maintenance, example, potholes repair, resurfacing, trench restoration, etc. Provide funding to New York City Department of Transportation for necessary materials and personnel to repair potholes and repair avenue curb to curb and major cross-town streets more frequently than every 10 years within Community Board 8. This is what I'm finding very difficult to walk in the streets. I think this is extremely important and needs to stay in the capital budget. And the pandemic is not a reason to stop doing this.
Russell, Rebecca, and Marco have their hands up about this whenever you're ready. Russell.
Thanks. Yeah, so my comment is I just wonder if we can be more specific than just to say more frequently than every 10 years. And if there is
every month when it's needed. I mean, I don't know how, I don't know enough about maintenance, how often you need it, but I think you need to repair it when it needs repairing.
Certainly, yeah. And I think, and I don't know what the sort of best practice is either, but I think, more frequently than every 10 years. I mean, in addition to the fact that
I think that's done because it's done about every 10 years now. I think that's what that means.
Okay, well, all right. If we don't think we need to change it, then that's fine. But I just like
take out the 10 years.
Yeah. I mean, why don't we say on a regular basis or something like that, which isn't overly specific.
We need it.
Yeah. Well, I think the idea is, there's sort of two things, right? I mean, there's stuff that's broken and needs to be repaired right away. But then as I read this, it's also talking about just sort of regularly scheduled stuff that's going on. And I just think they should be evaluating it.
This is getting worse and worse. It's worse than I've ever seen it. So that's why I feel very strongly about this one.
Yeah. Okay. Well, look, when needed is certainly, or as soon as needed, I guess maybe is even more strong than that. But yeah, I just thought we could do better than every 10 years. So that's my.
I know. I think that was a little sarcastic. It's probably done every 10. I don't know if it's officially done every 10 years.
Okay. That was it. That was all I had.
Any other hands up?
Yes. Rebecca Dangor, Marco, Felice, and Michelle. Rebecca.
Just, again, I think we need to include sidewalks here.
But then the DOT doesn't repair sidewalks. The owner of the building repairs the sidewalks. So the owner of the building. That's the problem, Rebecca. So they have to give out. Yeah, they have to go after the owners that don't repair them, but they don't repair. The city does not pay for the repair of sidewalks.
Yeah, I just think we need to include it somewhere.
Well, maybe that needs to be by a letter sent out to say they have to start forcing the owners to repair them or repair them and bill the owner. That's a different approach. That's my opinion anyway.
Okay.
It's not a budget item, really.
Okay.
Okay.
Marco, and then Felice, and then Michelle.
Yeah, Barbara, you're absolutely right. The sidewalks belong to the building owner. They are responsible to preserve and maintain and clean all the sidewalk all the time. And I think probably what we can do is some enforcement. And if they, I think we can do is what we can enforce is especially the sidewalks and demand to the developers that have the empty blocks, such as the case of 79, the First Avenue, 79 and 80th Street. This is the developer. They find out that since they're going to put a new building over there, he's make some patch repairs and unable to give a good sound and safe sidewalk. So I think probably we can work it out in that direction with the idea of Rebecca. I think that we can do that because the developer, we don't know when he's gonna build the new buildings, especially the buildings on 79th Street. That will be a very good idea if we include maybe at the end or in any other part. And the second part, obviously, I would like to mention, Barbara, I absolutely agree. And probably this is my first time that I'm going to push a little bit higher the number 5, because once a senior fall on the street, it most likely go to the grave. So this is extremely important for our community, especially for many seniors that we have in our community. And I'm extremely
it's actually number 8 now because we put 3
well,
items in.
It's just only my suggestion, but I think it's a very good idea.
Still a high number.
Thank you.
Felice?
I would rephrase the street repaving to focus on increasing the rate of roadway repaving in the community board to ensure the streets are maintained in good condition, since that's the standard that DOT uses, good, fair, and poor. And I think the focus is on, street resurfacing. So we can make.
No, it's awful. You can't walk now.
I think there's, right now, it seems to me that there's a big gap between when they're milling the streets and when they're repaving it. And so that's just left it in really poor condition for pedestrians trying to get across. In the recent years, the city has had a lot of money to do street resurfacing. I think in the budget, we're going to see those numbers being cut. And so I think it'd be important to focus on DOT doing street resurfacing to make sure the streets are maintained in good condition without referencing the year period.
Well, yeah, no, we're going to take out the 10 years.
Was that all you?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. And Michelle.
Okay, I would like to incorporate Felice's language, but also use the word, and Russell's, but use the words ongoing basis as needed. Now, pothole repairs are supposed to take place when they're reported. In other words, if you see a pothole, you can report it to 311. And those repairs are supposed to take place when they get, when they get those notices. Whether or not they do is another story. But I think we should have very strong language on an ongoing basis as needed, with pothole repairs being I don't know. Well, we can include that in there. We don't have to separate it out. And then, of course, we all agreed to take out the 10-year period.
Yeah, that was, I don't know why that was in there.
But the ongoing basis as needed, all that that's the strong wording.
That's good wording. Will anyone else?
That was the last hand up on this.
Okay. The next one was reconstruct or upgrade a park or amenity playground out of that. Okay, this one is talking about Rupert Park, which I know it definitely needs attention. I was called about Rupert Park, so that's not in good condition at all. It's really, there's people volunteering to keep it clean. I know the borough president is concerned about that. Council members are. It really needs attention. Any
Trisha has her hand up on this.
Tricia?
Agree. I absolutely agree. Thank you for keeping it in there. Needs it more than ever.
No, I know. I hear from Rita all the time.
Yep.
The next one, reconstruct or upgrade the park. It's John Jay Park, which I know is a big issue too with John Jay Park. It has become very controversial about if it's a quiet park or an active park. And I know the equipment, I looked at it myself, the equipment they have there is supposed to be for seniors. Someone told me that when their kid was small, quite a while ago, she never knew it was supposed to be for seniors and her kids played on it all the time. I couldn't understand how that's supposed to be for seniors and there was no signs up. So that's an ongoing argument about John Jay Park. Trish, you have anything to say about that?
Yeah, just that this goes beyond just that one quadrant. This is for the entire park.
I know that, but I had to throw that in because.
Yeah, so most recently, our biggest issue with this park has been the play mat in the playground area has completely lifted up from the surface. And so every time the sprinklers were on, which was one of the only way that was considered a cooling station this summer without the pool, because the sprinklers were on there, it lifted up the surface and was a really unsafe tripping hazard for all the children who were playing on the playground there. So this is something.
Was that taken care of? That sounds like an emergency.
No, it was not taken care of. The response that they gave was that to shut off the sprinklers. So it is something that's very urgent, and we really need to address it as soon as possible.
Will, can you call about that right away? I know you're doing it, but could you see what's happening?
Yeah. Trisha, you and I can connect offline about that, and we'll.
I mean, the sprinklers are probably not on anymore, but still.
They're not on anymore, so it's not a non-issue right now, but it certainly needs to be addressed hopefully before next summer.
Agreed.
Okay, the next one.
No other hands.
Oh, sorry.
No other hands. You're good to go.
Okay. Oh, I should go. Okay. Oh, this is the new sanitation trucks and other equipment. We know there's more of a need. I don't know if the problem is not enough trucks, but we know we need more sanitation. We put it in the expense budget, and I guess it needs to be here too.
Well, this is for the rat-proof garbage canisters and solar-powered compactor, big belly type.
The big, yeah. Any comments?
Marco has his hand up.
Marco?
I would like to see put in the language.
Talk a little louder, Marco. I'm having a hard time.
I'm sorry, Barbara. I would like to see in the language that this new garbage can should be anchored to the floor, because at any time they have a very strong winds and they can be rolling all over the city, hitting cars, hitting the pedestrians, hitting the properties, and we have to be resilient. And the best to be resilient is to do a proper installation of these metal cans. Thank you.
Okay. That's it?
Yes.
Okay. Install tree guards where missing from or where new trees go in. I know that's tree guards have always sometimes have become very controversial because they say they don't have the money for it. But if you don't have tree guards, people are throwing garbage in the tree pits.
No hands up.
Again, what the response was, talk to your borough president and city council member.
Oh, Judy has her hand up.
Judy?
Am I
Judy.
on?
You
are. Yeah, that's Parks Department doesn't do tree enclosures. Okay.
Well, that's what I mean. We can't put it in the budget.
They don't, Barbara, they don't
But we're telling them to do it.
They don't do it. You need the approval of the landlord who owns the sidewalk where you want the tree enclosure. It's an involved process. You can put it in. It's just a waste of time. They don't do tree enclosures.
They don't do a lot of things. Okay. The next one is upgrade existing facilities for the homeless. This is actually to air conditioning for all homeless shelters. I think that was started in this year's budget, but I don't know what's happened now. And I know they were trying to work on that because they had to improve ventilation, but I think that should stay in.
Russell?
And what the agency said, this request is not recommended for funding because the homeless aren't supposed to be comfortable. It doesn't say that. I added that.
Implied, yeah. Yeah, I mean, to me, I think maybe this is too specific, and we talk about HVAC elsewhere, which is broader and includes ventilation.
But this is about the homeless. What are your facilities?
Right, and what I'm saying is instead of just referring to air conditioning, I'm wondering if we should refer to HVAC more broadly, which also includes.
You can expand that, yeah.
That was my comment.
Okay, the next one is about the Webster branch, create a new or renovate or upgrade existing, upgrade electrical system at Webster. Was that done yet? Does Webster have a new electrical system?
Usually we have somebody from the libraries who attends these meetings.
Well, this is a different kind of meeting.
I know.
We usually have 2 people attend them.
Yeah.
Was that on their list?
Their list was only for that one item at the 67th Street.
Yeah, okay. Well, I think that should be in there if it wasn't done yet. I think that's important to need a new electrical system. Okay, the next one, fund a full.
Judy has her hand up, sorry.
Who has a hand up?
Judy Schneider.
Okay, Judy.
Barbara, I spoke to the 67th Street librarian today. They were told not to ask for anything.
I know, the Yorkville Library has told me that in the past too.
So you're not going to hear from any of the librarians.
No, I know that. The Yorkville Library, I know, wants things and they're told not to ask for it. I know all of that.
Just leave all the library things in.
Yeah, I know that. I know. They play that game. It's the main library.
No other hands are up.
Okay, call them. I can't see what hands are up.
No, I said no other hands
Oh,
are
no
up.
hands. Okay, I'm sorry. Next one is fund a fully built park along the East River between 60th and 63rd Street on the Esplanade, including future phases 2B and 3 of Andrew Haswell Green Park. What's happening with that one? Judy, you know, or somebody know about that?
Yes. The phase 2B is being built as part of the East Midtown Greenway and it'll be finished in 23. The date got pushed back. And but phase 3 is not funded at all. And we have a layout and a preliminary drawing and they're telling us it's going to be between 40 and $50 million because that's a very old building to complete it. And so I think it's very important that we leave phase 3 funding in there.
Okay. I mean, it doesn't mean we can't have a really, it turns sometimes into a wish list, but maybe eventually we'll get something. Okay.
That was the only hand up, so you're
Okay.
good to go.
This is the Queensboro Oval, return it to the community for all year round. I guess we should leave that in, right?
Marco has his hand up, and so does Trisha.
Absolutely, yes. All the parks should be stopped, privatized. Thank you.
Okay. I think we made that clear to them. Trisha, you have something to add?
Trisha?
Nope, I agree.
Okay. Okay, the next one is affordable housing program request. Provide more affordable housing for all income, low and middle income. I think it should be low and moderate and middle income. New York is. We should add moderate.
Okay.
How middle is not good enough. How they define middle. None of us are middle anymore.
Makes sense.
That's important. That was something the housing committee was concerned about. Affordable housing was one of our needs. That was one of the top needs. Affordable housing. Okay, the next one.
Wait, there's two hands up on this.
Oh, okay.
Marco and then Rebecca Dangor.
I think I should include it, not all low-income families, because all low-income families, they have a definition for city planning.
This is building. This is capital.
I know that. I know that. My point is we have to put not only low income, it has to be very low income. That's the language
I
they
agree.
use.
I mean, affordable.
That's the only thing. The rest is perfectly fine with me.
Okay, no, okay, we can say very low.
Thank you.
We need new definitions for income because
Yes, that's what it is.
What they call affordable housing is a joke.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Thank you.
Okay. Any other hands?
Rebecca Dangor.
Rebecca?
I would like this to be moved up, and I know we were talking about the library HVAC being moved down, so maybe this could take its place.
I'll love that. I think that's, and that's one of our important priorities on the needs request.
Yeah, I don't, it should not be the last item before continued support. So I want it moved up.
Yes, I agree. Okay,
Thank you.
the others are continuing support. That means an item has been funded but not completed. So that's the, those, you can look at those. Those are the continuing support. We don't want to take it away because we don't want the funding to stop, but those are the continuing support ones. Okay.
Judy has her hand up about the continuing support.
Yeah, Barbara, I don't have the list. I'm sorry. Is phase 2B of Andrew Haswell Green under continuing support?
Which one?
Phase 2B, Andrew Haswell Green.
Phase 2B was listed under item 12, which was.
It should be under continuing support because it's in the process, supposed to be in
okay. Okay, sure, then put it under continuing support and just change the other numbers.
Also, we have another park that's supposed to be constructed, Honey Locust. The funding has been allocated. Should we put that under continuing support?
Yeah, if it's allocated, put it under continuing support.
Okay. Thank you.
Now, the capital budget, I have to say, I'm very concerned about because I don't know what kind of cuts we're going to get. Okay. Anything else on the capital budget?
Judy, did I forget to lower your hand or did you have something else?
No, that's it. I agree with you, Barbara. I think we're going to be in big trouble.
Okay, well, I have another item to throw out after we vote on this. So there were changes made. Does anybody want to call the question with the changes that were made and the recommendations that were made to move things around?
You have a lot of hands that just went up. So just starting at the top. Marco, you're unmuted.
Oh, thank you. I would like to call the question. Thank you.
Oh, okay. Is there a second?
Wait, Rebecca Dangor is shaking her head no, so I assume.
I'm second.
I was just relooking, and this is important if we're going to vote on it, since it was discussed about moving item 1 down and having the 3 school requests.
Yes,
that in our description, we have that we ask that this request be given the necessary funding and highest priority in the 5-year plan. So if that's no longer our top request, we need to edit that.
No, we.
Which item are you talking about?
the original item 1 for
Yeah,
capital.
I think we already included that. We made that 4, I think. I said keep everything in, and we just put the other 3 on top of that.
Is the 5-year plan a reference to something in their agency?
You know, they have 5-year plans.
So would that mean that it is the highest priority for that agency?
Yeah.
Is that right? Does that make sense, Rebecca?
Yeah, okay, that works better.
Felice, do you have a question really quickly before we vote?
Yeah, sorry. This came up in the expense budget, but putting in the fencing on the Queensboro Bridge for the South Outer Roadway.
Capital now.
Right. So we should put it in the capital side.
Okay.
We want funding for the fence, because I think there actually is some flexibility and a lot of pressure on
Let's
DOT.
add that to the capital then too. It can be
Yeah.
improved.
Okay, so the Queensboro Bridge fencing.
Yep.
Put it in the cap.
For the South Outer Roadway.
Yeah. Any other comments?
Nope. No other hands up.
The question been called?
Somebody want to call the question?
We did.
You did? Great.
Second? Okay. All in favor? If you're not, raise your hand. Or push a button or something.
No, you're good to go.
Okay. Anybody want to vote no or abstain?
If you're voting no, abstaining, not voting for cause, please raise your hand. Otherwise, I'm going to quickly read the names who are still here, and we'll move on to the district needs statement. Barbara
I have
Chaki.
nothing before that.
Okay, Barbara Chaki, Marco Tamayo, Barbara Rudder, Billy Freeland, Brian Correa, Craig Lader, Felice Farber, Gail Barron, Michelle Birnbaum, Rebecca Dangor, Russell Squire, Sherry Weiner, Trisha Shimamura. All right, you're good to go. Barbara Chaki.
Yes, I like this, and if it's seconded, I'll speak on it briefly. I would like to recommend, we've done this in previous years, not recently, but a while back, that we recommend, because we know there's going to be federal, state, and city cuts to 2021 budget, and certainly to our recommendations for 2022. I'd like to recommend that we ask the New York State Legislature to do its a wealth tax. Anybody want to second it? I'll speak to it. Nobody second.
No, Marco has his hand up.
Okay, second.
Yeah, second.
Okay, I think we know there's going to be cuts, and I'm not saying we're going to have to accept some cuts, but I really do think our tax system is regressive. It's regressive in the city, certainly regressive in the state and the federal government. We can't do much about that right now. And I really think that people have to pay more for taxes. We have to do more of a redistribution of wealth in this state and city. Otherwise, people are really going to be starving. There are going to be more people in the streets. There's going to be less services of all kinds, and certainly no capital services. So I think it's a reality. I'm not going to put figures on it. I don't know. There's a lot of proposals in Albany right now for what's called a wealth tax or a millionaire tax or a billionaire tax. I'm not sure what you call it, but I really would like to see us recommend that.
You have a lot of hands up.
Calling them, I guess.
Yeah. Marco, did you have anything you wanted to add to that, or your hand was up first? No. Okay. Felice?
I just want to say that I would oppose that recommendation. I think we really need to look at the number of people who've been moving out of New York and think about the well-being of the city as a whole. We need to the city as a whole needs to look at how they spend their money before they start looking at adding an additional wealth tax. I think the economic vibrancy of the city is dependent on having a wealthy population that pays, I think, close to 40% of the personal income tax in New York City that supports all the progressive programs that we have. So I would be very concerned about promoting a wealth tax. And I think the city and the state should first look at how to do business more efficiently.
Thank you. Michelle is next.
Yes, I want to affirm everything that Felice said. She took my comments right out of my mouth. But I want to add that, of course, the wealthy are the most mobile. And if you make it difficult, they'll just move to another state. And that's what's been happening. We are hemorrhaging the tax base. You can't put all these things in your budget, whether it be capital or expense, for all these social services and not have a tax base to fund them. So with them, the wealthy being the most mobile population, with them paying the majority of the taxes, that's just the group that you want to keep in the city, and we should have every incentive to keep them here. That's who will fund the other programs that you want. So I would be vehemently opposed to this.
Thank you, Michelle. Barbara Rudder.
I feel uncomfortable with a specific wealth tax. I know there's been a lot of suggestions. I know there's talk we do need more money and it has to come from other ways. Certainly cuts in the budget and redoing some of the city agencies is one way. They're talking about a tax on a second home and things like that. I just feel it's too specific, Barbara. I understand your point of view, but I think it's too specific. I would not be comfortable with it. This also wasn't on the agenda, and I do think that there would be a lot of people that would want to.
We'll bring it up at the full board, of course.
Yeah.
However it's voted, so.
Are you done, Barbara?
Yes, yeah. I'm not going to comment anymore on it.
Oh, no, that was for Rudder.
About it for hours, but
yeah, call us Rudder and Shockey is better, right?
Yeah. All right, sorry. Then Rebecca Dangor is next, then Billy, then Craig, then Russell.
I can't be in favor of that because I don't believe it's the best way. I believe in a value-added tax, not a wealth tax, so I couldn't support this.
Billy?
I support this, Barbara. I don't know that we have to be specific. I mean, there are at least a dozen different, ways.
That's why I wasn't specific. I just said a wealth tax.
Yeah, so I would say, I would support something that speaks maybe in a generality about increasing taxes on the wealthy. We're a city where a hedge fund billionaire not long ago bought a $238 million penthouse on which the effective tax is something like 0.1%. And, we talk about people fleeing New York, but part of it is, are we going to have the resources as a city to pay for street cleaning, to pay for our schools, to pay for public health, all sorts of things we need to get the city back on its feet. So people are going to leave if we don't have the services that keep the city clean and keep it moving. So I think we have to look for revenue somewhere. We don't have to be super specific, I suppose, about how to get there. And, this is something I kind of take an interest in, this question of, are people fleeing or not? I have to say, none of us know, because with COVID, we're in an unprecedented moment. But there's a sociologist at Stanford, Cristobal Young, he studied this. People most likely to leave a city like New York actually are middle class and working class people. There's all sorts of reasons why the wealthy tend to stay and keep their roots in a place like New York City. So I would not necessarily take it as a given that the wealthy are inherently going to leave and never return to New York. So I think we have to do something to plug the budget hole and fund the needs of the city. And I think there's a lot of patriotic millionaires out there who would pay a little bit more in taxes if they thought it was going to go to an important purpose for bringing New York back from COVID. So I would support something in general, Barbara.
Craig?
If we as a community board are supposed to be apolitical, I'm very uncomfortable with us going down what could be a slippery slope. I think obviously we need to talk about revenues, and obviously in transportation we talk about congestion pricing, but that has specific ramifications on our community, in addition to a community-wide issue, but there are specific facets that impact us. Whereas something like this is about as political as you can get, and it's, I think, dangerous for us to even start to discuss this, whether there are merits to it or not. And I think we should not be entertaining this.
Gail Barron.
To second what Craig just said, I agree completely. Excuse me. I think that we're making it a political issue, and I just don't think that's appropriate for the community board. That's it.
Sherry Weiner.
I was wondering, Barbara, since we're speaking in such general terms, perhaps in asking that the legislature enforce a tax structure where individuals and corporations pay their fair share of tax, maybe even more general, but gets the same message across. That's really what we're talking about. We're saying that wealthy individuals and corporations are not paying their fair share. So I'm wondering if that would be.
I don't know if that's what that means, but I'll accept that. I don't know if you know.
I don't know. I mean, I also hear what the other people are saying, that this is a political issue. That's why I was trying to make it more generic.
On is a political issue, to be honest, right now. So I didn't mean to be. It's not a partisan issue.
Well, it kind of is, though.
Well, everything can be a partisan issue. Then, now let's leave that on. And
Marco and Michelle are the last two with their hands up. Marco? Marco, you're muted.
He spoke
Okay.
on it.
Thank you. I support this idea of increased taxes, but not in the political arena. My concern is the city invested billions of dollars in the Second Avenue subway. Right there, the city put billions of dollars. Now the developers are coming and they demolish affordable housing. So we have to put taxes at that specific location because the city put money, and who cash it in is the developers. So we have to create taxes for these kind of the situations. I don't want to go against the millionaires. I don't want to go with those people because yes, it could be different outcome or all of that. But I had to go directly to those people that they cashing in the investment in great infrastructure such as the Second Avenue subway. Thank you.
Michelle, you're the last person with the. Oh, Trisha has her hand up too now.
Yeah, I want to second Craig's point of view. We should take this off the table. I don't think there's anything here that we should be discussing. I will not take it off the table.
I'm sorry, it's not. We've done this a number of years, and I'm not taking it off the table. You can all vote no, but I'm not removing it from the table.
Trisha,
I don't see it as political.
I see it as inappropriate for this committee or the community board.
I don't see it that way.
I know you don't, Barbara. I know you don't because you proposed it. I'm voicing my point of view.
Okay.
Trisha. Try that again.
Sorry, does that work?
Yep.
Barbara, while I myself am supportive of this, I don't think that I'm ready to vote on something tonight. I do think that there are a lot more people who would want to weigh in on how to address the economic crisis that our city's in, and that goes beyond this one tax. That so I think that the better move would be to try to have another meeting on this where we could properly post and properly get all the suggestions out on the table and really talk about what the best strategy moving forward is. I think that there's a lot more that needs to frankly get done. So I can't, although I again am supportive, I can't, I don't think I'm ready to vote on this tonight. I do think that we need that there needs to be a kind of broader, more dedicated time to discuss with a larger audience.
Okay, I'll withdraw it from now, but I'm still thinking it's not I don't think it's inappropriate. Okay, I'll withdraw it from now. We now have the district needs statements, and that's going to, they changed these forms too, so it made it much more complicated. I just want to say the 3 items that are our top items, most important pressing issues facing the community board is affordable housing, parks, and schools. I think that became obvious as we did the items on the budget, as we reviewed the 2021 budget. And I think that, I don't know the best way to handle this. I think everybody saw this previously. We know what the needs are. I think maybe everybody, I don't know if we can vote on it now, or people want to look at the items again and vote on it, a follow-up vote. I'm not sure how to do this now, but those were our 3 priority items. And I don't think we got anything that changed that. Did we, Will?
No, I don't think so.
I think those were obvious. And as we discussed both expense and budgets, and I think we should just, I recommend that we just continue supporting in the 2022 needs, set whatever you call it, district needs, continue using that, saying those are our major needs. And then the way you fit it into categories now, which they instituted 2 years ago, which made it much more complicated and confusing, I think, that we should just continue supporting those as our 3 top priorities.
Okay. You have 3 hands up in response to that. Trisha?
Yeah. So I agree, Barbara. I just want to say that Barry and I submitted new language for the parks one. That's just a little more that's just more updated.
We have to update the languages on it, but I think we can do that after we vote on it.
Yep. So I Will has that as well. I just want to make mention that how we describe our parks has been updated for FY22.
Good.
Then you have Rebecca Dangor, Russell Squire, then Judy Schneider.
I know we did do last year quite a bit of editing, so I think it's in good shape. The only thing I'm wondering about is if we want to directly advocate for building new schools, not just having more seats here, if that's going to be the first 3 items.
Where would you?
I think we should. I think we just directly state maybe either replace the more. No, not replace. I would say maybe in the next sentence, just say the path forward is we need to build more schools, and just include it.
In the top 3s, in the description on the top 3.
Yeah.
Okay. Would you just draft that and I'll put it in?
Yeah, I'll do that in the document thing.
Thank you. Judy?
Question, Barbara. I don't remember when we switched over to this format. At one point, they said we couldn't have the same priorities 2 years in a row. Have they changed their mind about that?
That is not something they've told us. And we also just lost Barbara.
Oh, sorry about that.
No. I don't know what happened. I have not had this situation where.
Was before you came when Latha was here, Will?
Yes.
When we started with this, they said that you couldn't keep the same priorities 2 years in a row. They had to change. So I'm just wondering if they changed their mind about that.
That is not something they have said. So, and they've we left these exactly the same as they were last year. Or
great. Forget I asked.
Yeah.
But fine, Barbara, please do.
Yeah. Michelle, I'm going to let you speak because you had your hand up. But
yeah, thank you. So to Rebecca's point, one of the reasons I raised my hand is because I wanted to see the wording. So now you put the wording on the screen. However, I can't slide down to see the end of that paragraph where it says school funding is in the city. All right. The only thing I would like to change, if you can go back up now to the first line, I can't move it.
Yeah.
Where it says schools we need pre-K, blah, blah, blah.
You see this, I went off, my internet shut down. I'm back now.
Okay, so
I'm on my cell phone, so you're small.
Okay, so where it says high school seats, Rebecca had made the point earlier, and I agree with her. That sort of refers to like finding place in existing schools. So I would like to put wording in there to say build schools.
Well, yeah, and the capital, that's what it should be. Yeah.
Right. So I want to say,
I would say build or renovate.
Well, okay. Yeah. All right. We need to, well, actually renovate could be construed to mean that create more seating in an existing building.
Okay. Okay. Let's say build. That's fine.
Yeah, so I'm worried about that, but we need to build more elementary, middle, and high schools and create more seats for pre-K, elementary, middle, and high schools.
Okay, that sounds good
so
to me.
that I think we get the building of the elementary, middle, and high, and then we get the pre-K in there, because for that you can create seats within those buildings, because there's really no expectation of building a separate school for pre-K or.
Okay.
So if you could change that wording, make it a little stronger, that would be great. But otherwise, I think it looks good. Thanks.
Mm-hmm. That's the only hand that's up right now, Barbara. So really quickly, Trisha, is this where this is where you're wanting me to insert that language? Or were you wanting that in the parks at the end?
Yeah, so I looked at the entire district needs statement and updated every statement in there relating to parks. So the first one, Will, that I put in your little notes Google Doc sheet is the piece that you could put in there where it says top 3 priority. So you should be able to just copy and paste. And then in other areas where we list the top priority pieces for parks, then I updated that as well. So everything should be updated for parks.
Okay, so if I cut this out and I put
the other one out, and you could put in just that first paragraph that I had. Yes, that's it.
Not the additionally, or with the additional?
No, it's two paragraphs.
Okay, great.
Now, did we vote? I went, my computer shut down and maybe it was out of juice. Did we vote yet on the the top priorities?
I think you just can vote on the entire district needs statement whenever you get to the end. So we don't have to take a lot of time on this.
Okay, that's what I was trying to do.
Yeah.
And why did my computer just shut down? Was it out of? It's disconnected. Is that what it was? You think?
Yeah, probably.
Okay.
Rebecca Dangor has her hand up.
Just because I'm reading, Trisha, what you added, I just want to say that I changed one thing to be Community District 8 instead of the board, which is what we did a lot last year.
This one? Or did you already change it?
I changed it in the Google Doc, needs for parks, the population density in Community District 8. That's just what I fixed.
Oh, okay. What I put in there is right.
I can't see that that one also has to be district.
Okay. All right. Marco has his hand up. Were you done, Rebecca?
Yeah. And you can send it to me and I can look it over again if you want.
Yeah. Remember, all of this will get, you'll get a copy of this to vote on at full.
Yeah.
So if there's anything that needs to be changed at that time, we can always change it.
Sounds good.
Marco.
Yes. Barbara, in the district needs of 2019, you have some percentage of the deficit of affordable.
I don't have 219 in front of me.
Because on the 220, you remove that, or somebody removed. I think this percentage is extremely
Percentage of what? I didn't hear what you said. Percentage of what?
of deficit of affordable housing. Because, for instance, the median average of affordable housing in the city of New York is 3.6, and the community board is 2.8. This is extremely statistical information for any person that understands housing and understand how crucial and how critical is affordable housing in our community. I don't know if you have this year or not, but in the 2020, I couldn't find it. But in 2019, yes. This is, I think, it's still the same.
Okay, I don't know.
Thank you.
So Barbara, what would you like to do? Would you like to ask for comments on any of the other sections, or?
I don't know. I think we just need to maybe vote on those 3 top priorities, and then people can look at it and see if they have any further comments later on. Does that make sense?
I don't think you need to vote on just a small subset
Okay.
of the district needs statement.
Okay, so then we just, okay. Because I don't think we want to vote on each section now, do we?
No. That's, I think, the thing I would like us all to avoid.
Boy, that's what I'm trying to avoid too. And we got to set it up for the bud committees. Otherwise, the full board meeting will go to 5 a.m.
So then if there are any edits or questions or comments about any of the other sections, we can jump to them. Or somebody could make a motion to approve the district needs statement.
So moved, I'll do it.
So Rebecca and Marco have their hands up.
Okay.
Rebecca.
I make a motion to approve the district needs statement.
Marco,
is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Somebody call the question?
Can I call the question?
Yes.
Okay, call the question.
Okay.
I see Russell seconds it.
Okay. When now voting, if anybody wants to abstain or vote no, please raise your hand or indicate in some way if you're not on the link anymore. Just let us know. Any abstentions or no votes?
Seeing none, it looks like the district needs statement is approved. I'm just going to read the names like I did the last time, because I think we had a couple people go and come. Barbara Chalky, Marco Tamayo, Rebecca Dangor, Barbara Rudder, Billy Freeland, Brian Correa, Craig Lader, Felice Farber, Gail Barron, Michelle Birnbaum, Russell Squire, Sherry Weiner, Tricia Shimamura.
Okay. Well, thank you, everybody. Everybody was very cooperative, and it was really, I think, a good meetings. They could have been very complicated. So thank you. And thank you, Will, for doing all the work you did to prepare it.
Yeah. Thank you, guys.
Okay, motion to adjourn.
Is there a second? I see Rebecca Dangor seconds it.
Okay. Okay, bye. Stay safe, everybody.